restless dreams, I see that town, silent heaven. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. I'm alone there now, in our special place. Waiting for you. Waiting for you.
Is it dangerous? It's just, I guess I really don't care if it's dangerous or not. I'm going to town either way. I'm looking for someone very important to me.
Waiting for you. In our special place. Don't you want to touch me?
I don't know.
Come and get me.
Okay, stay right there. I'll be there soon. That's why I needed you. And someone to punish me for my sins. That's all over now. I know the truth. Now it's time to end this.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. How we doing? How goes it? Are we ready for this podcast? It's been a long time since we've had the deep dive. This is years and years old.
In my restless dreams, I see that town, silent heaven. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. I'm alone there now, in our special place.
I have the second PC up and running.
Waiting for you.
I was trying to get it so that I could stream from that PC today, but I couldn't. It's now noon, and so I wanted to make sure that I, went live somewhat.
Is it dangerous? It's just, I guess I really don't care if it's dangerous.
Okay, let me fill up my covfefe, and I'll be back.
I'm looking for someone very important to me.
Waiting for you.
someone to punish me for my sins. That's all over now. I know the truth. Now it's time to end this.
Okay. I am back.
In my restless dreams,
Am I weird? This
I
isn't
see
in the
that
center.
tent.
Oh my god. There we go.
Silent Hill. You promised
Hey.
you'd take me there again someday. But you never did.
This fucking remix is so good. Like, unreal good.
In our special place.
All right. How we doing, everybody? Morning, Kez, if you're there lurking.
Waiting for you. Waiting for you.
Okay. We're gonna start in just a minute.
It's just. I guess I really don't care if it's dangerous or not. I'm going to town either way. I'm looking for someone very important to me.
Waiting for you.
Oh my god, this is Silent Hill 4 music. But that's okay, I'm gonna leave that there for a second. Okay. We're gonna start in just a second. I promise. I'm getting everything set up because I need to be basically we're gonna be working together today. We're gonna have this podcast going while I try to get some stuff done for this weekend for Deathless. And we've got all 3 episodes of it, which is just 3 parts, really, of Silent Hill 2. But that means I just want to grab some things so that I'm ready to work. Okay. I am here. Coffee's here. Oh. Broken. Let's go. Okay. Are there 2 tracks playing? Jeez, I sure hope not. No, it's just the way the song is. Okay. Sorry, I had walked away for a second. Okay, I am here. I have... Oh my god, one more second. I'm so flippin' excited. Definitely Final Fantasy music. Wait, what? Wait. What? I don't hear anything. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, is it this? There we go. It was built into the fucking jellyfish video, and so I didn't catch it. Sorry. Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right, here we go. No, you were right. There was something else playing. It was baked into the video, but I couldn't hear it. So, I was wondering if PB was fishing. No, it's in this jellyfish video. Now I'm kind of curious. Hold on. I want to hear what it was. Oh, what the fuck? I have no idea what that was. Maybe it came with the jellyfish video. Okay. It does sound like the Final Fantasy background, though. Holy shit. Okay, so a couple of things here. If I play this, can
Hello,
you hear
everyone,
it?
and
You can, correct? You could hear that start, I assume. Yep. Okay, perfect. So here's the deal. Pro streamer, listen. Listen, okay? I spent the whole day setting up a second computer, and I think I'm stuck. I don't know how I'm gonna do some of this dual streaming shit, but I'll tell you what. Other than audio, I have managed to get it to capture No Man's Sky flawlessly without a capture card, and I'm losing my mind over it. It's beautiful. I just need to get the audio sorted and the sound sorted. So, yeah, hopefully I can get all that done. Just make your own noises then. Yeah, but you can't hear me either. There's just no sound at the moment. But it is pretty cool. It's set up, it's running. But that's okay because I can still do other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be editing the podcast. Okay? I'm going to be editing while we're listening to this. You shouldn't be able to hear what I'm doing. So we're going to be working together while we've got this podcast going, which I'm super into. And if I can get this to work, we'll do more things like this for sure. For now, however, I just need to make sure that this is set up properly. I think it is this, correct? I think it is this. Okay, and to do that, oh man, tell you what. Voxelar is the tits, man. It's excellent. You want to know why? Because I don't think you can hear this. Can you, hold on. Can you hear anything other than me right now? Because you can't. It's just me, right? Nope. Oh my God. I have the fucking podcast going. I can hear it, but you can't, which is awesome, which means you won't have competing audio. However, this is where I need your help. I am going to have the podcast very, very low so that I can edit this. So you guys are going to have to tell me when the first episode is over. I also don't like listening to myself. So, and I think this is like really old. So this is like, I think I was still on my old microphone. I think this was still before, this might even have been before the Go XLR. So the audio quality probably isn't what we're used to today, but it's still pretty good. I'm really proud of this project. It was really, really fun. But just so we're all clear, this is Stevie and I talking many, many years ago before the remake was ever announced. We're talking about the original Silent Hill 2, and then Stevie and I are going to get together after she's done playing Silent Hill 2, the remake, and we're going to talk again about it, specifically about the remake. So this is fun. We do have plans to put the Deep Dive podcast back up on the Geek Generation, but it requires me adjusting all of the ends of the audio to say like, hey, you're listening to the Deep Dive podcast. You can find it at Geek Gen, that kind of stuff. Because right now it's all set to the old server and stuff like that. So you are listening to something that is otherwise in the Disney archives, essentially. So I really hope you enjoy it. And I guess without further ado, we can dive in. I just want to make sure everything's working here. Hold on. Yeah, I think we're good to go. Okay, are we all here? Are we all ready? Do we need a few more minutes? I don't even know how long we were live. We were live for a couple minutes, right? I think we're good. Good to start. I'll mute myself so that you don't hear me going blah, 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 every 5 seconds when I'm working. Okay. Let's dive, my darlings. Let's dive. Oh wait, you're gonna have to tell me the volume level if it's okay. I'm actually gonna do my best to just eyeball it according to the audio mixer here.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we bring you an in-depth look at Silent Hill 2,
Okay, bye.
a survival horror game about madness, punishment, and our inner demons and monsters. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we bring you an in-depth look at Silent Hill 2, a survival horror game about madness, punishment, and our inner demons and monsters. It was developed by Konami, directed by Tsuboyama Masashi, written by Owaku Hiroyuki, with a crazy, amazing score composed by Yamaoka Akira. And our guest today is Stevie Ray Drawn, freelance illustrator and also the creator of Weatherwax Coven. And of course, she is a huge fan of Silent Hill 2. I'd just like to note that Silent Hill 2 is rated R, and while we have talked about some heavier subjects in past episodes, this one's going to be pretty intense just because it's a horror game and there were a lot of really graphic and heavy scenes, and it is one of my favorites of all time and totally worth a playthrough, but divers' discretion is advised. As always, we recommend you play the game before listening because we're going to dive deep, and in the abyss, there be spoilers. And now, without further ado, let's descend.
Three, 2, 1, go.
Oh. I wonder if we can get away with having the ambient sound while we do the podcast. I don't know if we're allowed to do that.
We may be able to. I have a request for you.
Yes.
At the beginning, so I watched part of your one episode with Cap about Tender Loving Care, which sounds like such a creepy game to me.
It was pretty creepy. It was a surprise, actually, is what it was. We weren't expecting it to be as good as it was.
I mean, when you Google it, the screenshots just look really porny.
Yeah, it was. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty porny. Like, there were moments where I was like, is this the day Captain gets banned on Twitch? Like, what's happening here? And he'll tell you the same thing.
What I was thinking is I'd like to tell people about like my experience with Silent Hill, which is like I didn't play it until I was like 29. Like I had no experience with it, and then I played it and I was like, I hated horror games, and I'd like to share that, and I'd like to like make a brief like no spoilers plea to people who have never experienced it to like go experience it. So should I just tell you the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
However you would like. God, this music is really creepy.
I know.
Okay.
I had never played any survival horror games at all. I had played 2 seconds of a very old Resident Evil game, and there was like a corner and a fixed camera and a zombie, and I just chickened out. And I couldn't deal with it. So like I like avoided horror games. And then I happened to get to watch a friend play Silent Hill 3, and I got like oddly sucked in. And through the process of watching Silent Hill 3, I came to find it really like fascinating. And I think this was in like 2015. I was like almost 30 at the time. Like I really missed the early boat of Silent Hill. And I think that it was really good to like experience Silent Hill 3 before Silent Hill 2, because it was like, for me, what people in the original days had when they played Silent Hill 1 and then Silent Hill 2. It's like I got familiar with the way the game worked, with the mist world and the other world.
Yeah.
And
oh my god, the music at that moment. Holy crap. Okay, I don't care. I'm putting the music behind in this story. That was like perfect.
I would love to talk about Silent Hill 3 with you at another point.
Yes.
It's part of like...
Did you ever play The Room? I think I asked you this a million times. You haven't played Silent Hill 4 yet, right? Right.
I haven't played...
Trying to get
yeah,
you...
Yeah, I haven't played 1 or 4, and I will play those, and we can talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
I knew some of the lore from 1, and like obviously the experience of 3, and those two are related for people who haven't played them, but I won't talk about that in any more depth right now. But the experience of Silent Hill 2 is really interesting because it was the first one where I like picked up the controller and I was like, I'm gonna try, and I was so... Can I swear?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Originally, I started the podcast trying to be as family friendly as possible, but it's me, so things have slipped in. Yep, go for it.
I was so fucking scared in the beginning part of playing the game. Like, it just took me getting into the first like main area, into the apartments, and like getting through the apartments a little bit before I like got over that fear. Like I got used to the mechanics, and I knew that I wasn't gonna die, and I knew how to like have health and stuff. And so like the first couple sessions I played like 20 minutes and stopped, And then I played 20 minutes and stopped.
That's
and then
something I hear a lot, actually, for Silent Hill 2, for people. They played for a bit, and then they couldn't play all the way through.
It was I think it was a feat that I got back into it during those early stages where I was really like scared and bored. But then once I got into it, I was just playing for hours and hours, and like I just like consumed the game so quickly. And my experience, like as an adult person who had no idea what I was getting into, of the reveals in this story and the like really amazing in-depth character arcs.
Yeah, man.
I was just, it was like probably one of my like top 5, maybe top gaming experiences of my entire life.
Yeah, mine too.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's a game from, 2000 or whenever. It was just as amazing. I always want to tell people, like, if you have no experience with Silent Hill, you have an amazing gift. That you can go have this experience if you want to. So if you're listening to this and you haven't played Silent Hill,
turn it off.
Yeah.
Turn it off and go play.
Yeah. And then come back and hang out with us.
Yeah. So I'd like to share my experience with you.
Yeah.
And part of it, actually, I've played the Silent Hill 2 for the first time because I had a crush on somebody who was a huge fan. And I'm a chicken shit. I can't stand anything scary, but he had said, "Oh, I'm playing this game, and it's really, really like horrifying." And it was Silent Hill 1 that he was playing. He said it's probably the best game I've ever played. And then Silent Hill, I forget when Silent Hill 2 released. Do you happen to know this based on your amazing Silent Hill knowledge? Okay.
No.
I thought I'd ask. But when Silent Hill 2 came out, or either it came out and he was about to play it. And so I said, okay, well, I will also get it and I will play it. And we can play it together, because it was a long distance friendship. Like, we met on a role playing forum and wrote stories together. So
so cute.
Yeah, it was just an online friendship for a very, very long time. So I said, okay, well, I'll get the game as well, and I'll play it. But we didn't play it at the same time necessarily as each other. It's not like we were in chat, or there was no voice chat or anything like that really at the time. So it would just be like, where are you in the game? Oh, I'm here. And then we'd talk about it whenever it came up. So I was by myself when I started to play Silent Hill 2 for the first time. And yeah, just like you, it grabbed me right away. And it's a whole other experience when you're holding that controller.
Mm-hmm. I would not change that experience for anything.
Yeah, same. So what ended up happening was I also spent a lot of time, floating around either at my friend's house or they'd come over. We were theater kids, so we'd have huge kind of like hangout parties where not all we would just be with each other all the time. It wasn't like we needed to be doing something in particular. So I remember being at my friend, shout out to you, Riley. I remember being at my friend Riley's house, and I was just in his room, and I was playing the game. I booted it up there for the first time, and I was like, okay, I'll just sit here and play this while they're doing whatever it is they're doing out there. And I'm playing the game, and it's like my hands are sweating. It's all dark in his room. I turned off all the lights. I've got it going, and I'm like, what the hell is this game? And then my friend Diane comes in the room. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, she opens the door. I'm terrified, sitting in the corner of his bed, like hunched over with this controller, like, oh my God. And she's like, are you okay? What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm playing this really fucked up game. Like, oh my God. And then she's like, really? And then so she comes over on the bed. And, fast forward 20, 30 minutes later, Riley comes in. It's the same thing. He opens the door. He sees two girls huddled up on the bed, like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Oh my God, we're playing this really fucked up game. And then eventually it became this like group experience where I would sit with a controller and we would all play Silent Hill together, which you might think that it makes it a little bit less scary, but it didn't at all. It was just absolutely horrifying. So I have particularly fond memories of Silent Hill 2 because of that experience, because it was like me and my friends, and we played all the way through the game together. And then we started to do the same for Silent Hill 3 and 4 when it came out. So it's just, I have really fond memories of that. And of course, for some reason, I was the only one. I got stuck with the controller like all the time. So I'd be like sweating. I'd have pit stains because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Can someone else take the controller? But nobody else would do it. So.
Well, these games with the fixed camera angles really made it being the one driving was in itself a psychologically terrifying experience.
Absolutely. It's funny because people say now, what about the new Silent Hill games? And I say, like, I tried to play the new one, the newest
Which one?
Not that we played the one on the Xbox a little bit, but also the newest one, which was
Is it Downpour?
Yeah, that one. Yep, that one. Where he's in the prison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's super interesting. Like, I feel like the story elements are there. Like, in the beginning, that first scene was pretty horrifying. There's just something about being able to control the camera and having control or not worrying that my weapons are going to break. So, I don't know. It just didn't grab me the way the other ones did. And I think that Silent Hill 2, there's something special about it because it was clunky mechanics. Because it was a fixed camera. You immediately feel like you're not in control, which you're not. And that's a gift. The time that it came out was great for that.
And you're also just like these everyday people who are not expected to have any kind of combat skills.
Yeah.
The best you can do is swing a piece of wood.
A plank of wood, yeah, for the first 2 hours of the game, I think, yeah.
So after 4, they moved away from what people call Team Silent and gave it to different studios and different teams to make the games. And generally, like, the hardcore fans say those are the games that are not Silent Hill games because they're much more combat focused and much more action oriented.
Yeah, they went down the path of Resident Evil, which is not bad. Resident Evil games can be, but they didn't have the terror that I feel like the original Silent Hills did. Like, there's just some really disturbing content in those games. And I'm not saying like it's necessarily graphically horrifying or...
There was a trend of all these game franchises getting more action-y. Like, Silent Hill did it and Resident Evil did it. And then we should probably just talk about this another time, but PT came out.
Oh my God.
And PT...
I still have it on my PlayStation. I refuse to sell my PlayStation because it has PT. I'm probably going to play it again for Halloween, but yeah.
Can I come over sometime?
Yes. Wait, have you never played it?
Nope.
Oh my God. You're coming over. Not. You are coming over. We're having a Silent Hill party.
Perfect.
I also have Silent Hill 4. So, next time you come for a prolonged period, you could just come over and I'll just watch you play.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So PT came out and I can't remember who I was watching, but basically the idea is that PT brought a resurgence of this psychological, like, slow-paced, slow burn horror back, and that Resident Evil, the most recent one, what was that one? 7?
Yes, Resident Evil 7. Biohazard, I think.
That Resident Evil 7 really took a lot of, like, inspiration from the success of PT and this, like, resurgence of, like, the just psychological horror of it. That's exciting. So hopefully, maybe even Konami at some point will return to those roots.
Yeah, even if it's not Konami, I would love to just see the same team or the same style. Have you seen, I think Abbey Road got canceled, actually. But have you seen Abbey Road stuff?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, girl. Okay. I always do this. It's not Abbey, it's Allison Road. They have outright said it is straight up, we love Silent Hill. We loved PT. This is basically, PT got canceled, so we're just going to do something that we hope is similar. And you can see right in that opening shot on the website where it focuses on the door and the lights are swinging. That's such a Silent Hill thing to do. And the dusty mirrors and the cruddy bathroom. Oh. So yeah, it's going to be great.
This looks amazing.
Yeah, so I've got some hopes up for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this already. Yeah. This is amazing.
So, question, what is it about the slow burn psychological horror do you think that gripped you so much? Like, specifically Silent Hill 2. What about it grabbed you? Was it like watching a train wreck, or what was it like playing that game?
I think there is a thing in storytelling that is the unifying theme between literally everything that I love, which is the complex characters who you get to discover their complexity over time. And so really it was about these people and sort of, this is the perfect metaphor for Silent Hill 2, but going deeper.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're just jumping in endless holes and getting deeper into their psyche and learning more and more about what actually brought them to the point where they're at right now. And there's so much artful visual metaphors. It's a whole, I feel like, multimedia experience.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
The audio, like the imagery and the story itself, they all work together to make something that it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So, and I think that it was probably the music that really got me, though.
Yeah, the music is like some of the best. You can listen to the music by itself, and it's kind of creepy, but it's not as creepy as when you're playing the game. Like, there's just something really magical about the mechanical noises that he made with the music, and just like the clanking and everything. It got me hooked on horror ambience music. Like, I will listen to that shit on my own now. Sometimes it freaks me out, but like I will put that on and I will just enjoy that kind of like tones and stuff.
And there's a thing about the music where it doesn't match the world in some ways.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times in games and in movies, they have either a symphonic score that is telling you what to feel, or they have music that is like directly fitting the specific environment.
Yeah.
But this music is fitting the psychological environment.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I know there are lots of games, and I feel like for me, and this is just me personally, but sound has a major impact on my experience of whatever game that I'm playing. So either, voice acting, or good music usually is great. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to be, perfectly composed or anything like that. It just has to suit the game. And I feel like Silent Hill 2 nailed that really early. I don't feel like many other games were doing that other than traditional maybe JRPGs. I remember really being immersed because of the wonderful music. One that comes to mind is Final Fantasy IX, Freya's theme. I used to put that on repeat. I don't know if you played any JRPGs actually.
No, I have not.
Oh, wow, yeah. So I grew up on JRPGs and then switched to, like, Silent Hill 2 was my first horror game that I had ever played.
So I grew up on like first person shooters like Doom.
Oh wow, okay,
Quake and stuff. So my experience of role playing games was like, this is slow. Which is amazing to me why something later in life like Silent Hill would have such an impact on me, and I'm just like, it's art.
So we're going to talk about Silent Hill today.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into pretty much everything that we can, plot analysis, character analysis, stuff like that, which we don't normally do for the games that we cover. We normally just talk about how it made us feel and things like that. But this there's so much to this game that I feel like we got to talk about all of it, because the moment I realized the depth to this game, it skyrocketed to, my top 5 favorites of all time. So the voice acting in this game was off. And I actually kind of love it now. When I was first playing it, I was like, what the hell is going on? It's like they didn't get any context for their lines. Turns out they didn't get any context for their lines, but also I love it now. I wouldn't change it for the world because it made it creepier to me. We start with James, and the opening scene is James looking for his wife, and that's Mary. And he received a letter, I think. Yep, he received a letter from Mary. So the opening scene is him reading his letter from Mary about how she's at the town where was it their honeymoon or just a vacation that they had together? It's been a long time since I played the game.
She says, I'm in our special place.
I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday. But you never did. Well, I'm alone there now. In our special place. Waiting for you.
And he's like, what is our special place? There were so many places in Silent Hill that could have been our special place. I have no idea what she means.
I got a letter. The name on the envelope said Mary. My wife's name. It's ridiculous. Couldn't possibly be true. That's what I keep telling myself. A dead person can't write a letter. Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then, why am I looking for her? Our special place. What could she mean? This whole town was our special place. Does she mean the park on the lake? We spent the whole day there. Just the two of us, staring at the water. Could Mary really be there? Is she really alive? Waiting for me?
So yeah, we start with James, and then as he enters Silent Hill, it's, covered in a fog, and then some crazy stuff starts happening. Monsters start showing up, and eventually there's this kind of like other reality that he slips into on occasion and then comes back, and he's like, the whole game he's trying to find Mary, his wife, and all this weird stuff keeps happening. Well, it turns out, as you're playing the game, there's a reason for that. I'm actually going to turn it over to you, if you'd like.
Yeah. So James goes into Silent Hill, and the mechanic of Silent Hill is that it is a place that manifests your deepest trauma or repressed issues to you through the form of monsters that are monsters and other like abstract.
It's like your punishment,
events.
Right? They say if you find yourself in Silent Hill, you're being sort of punished for something that you've done. However, you don't know this when you start up Silent Hill 2. In fact, I don't know if you know it explicitly in any of the games. Do they tell you that? It's just lore you learn after you've played a couple of games. You say, oh, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So James goes into this town, and he starts to encounter these like horribly misfigured feminine monsters of multiple different types. There are lying figures which like vomit on you and have their like heads covered and their arms like wrapped up as if they were like...
Holy crap! I just realized what that was.
Yes.
Oh my god!
Let's just say it. So those represent Mary's sickness that she... Oh, we forgot.
Yeah.
Mary's dead.
Oh yeah.
She died of horrible illness, and that's all we know at that point.
Yep.
And so these lying figures are like, they're like writhing and vomiting, and that represents her like illness that she had.
Bedridden illness. Yeah. Wow. I didn't. Oh man, I just realized that. Holy crap.
There's also the mannequins, which are like it's like two sets of mannequin legs, and that's like obviously a sexualization and objectification of like women. James is pretty canonically known to have had like sexual frustration when his wife was sick for like 3 years. That relates to the reveal, which I'm gonna do a small like overview of the game, and then I'll give the reveal. It feels like it needs some dramatic pause or something. So and then there's nurses, which are a very common monster in Silent Hill. You discover them in the hospital, where you get to a little bit later. So basically, you go into the town, you walk through the foggy streets, you go into the apartments, you end up bouncing between multiple different locations. You go into a bar, you go into a bowling alley, you go into a hospital. And in each of these different places, you encounter different elements of the story. The nurses are in the hospital. They are actually the first sexualized nurses. In Silent Hill 1, they were not sexualized. And that is because of James's trauma. They're called bubblehead nurses.
Oh, really?
They have this like plastic over their faces. That's
No
like kind
way.
of like a shiny like plastic, and they're like boobs
suffocation.
I heard thought that they're meant to look somewhat like condoms.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how much I buy into that, but they're definitely like, it's like
I don't
ominous.
know. I think that's a very interesting interpretation, but I think I'd actually prefer the asphyxiation.
The thought was that they were supposed to like explode when you killed them.
Oh, yeah.
Or burst when you kill them. No, the technology at the time wasn't good enough to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, or something along those lines. Some of this stuff is like, there's a lot of like mythology around Silent Hill, and I'm not sure if that is like for real or just mythology. So
yeah, where it's like, this is why they did this. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And they also represent the hospital. So they're not only are they're like sexualized other women besides Mary, and they're like the caretakers in the hospital where he would have spent a lot of time in the 3 years that she was sick. And so you go through the world and you discover these different like sexualized female monsters. And then you start to discover that there's something much deeper wrong with James than just him looking for his dead wife, which is already something to worry about him over. It leads you through this series of events that basically show you that James killed his wife. And that's the big reveal. It's so hard not to dance around that, because it is such a moving and like intense moment. I barely ever even talk about it because it is so intense for me.
Well, because the way that I feel like it took me by surprise, which is difficult to do when it's kind of like this kind of a setting in a game. I'm always, because I know it's a horror game, I'm always looking for, okay, where's the twist? But I feel like part of that is because of this game, you know, where it's like, oh, she's dead. And then as you're slowly seeing all of these things, like there's a monster in the game of somebody literally strapped to a bed, like a hospital bed, and they're writhing around and moving and, you know, jerking around, and like, oh my God. And the moment you realize that he killed his wife, everything just clicks and makes sense, because the reveal is very far at the end of the game. And then I just feel like in that moment I went, oh my God, that's why it's showing this person strapped to this bed, struggling around, jerking around as if someone was suffocating them. Like, oh my God, how cool is that? But I mean, not cool, that whatever, you guys know what I mean. I just thought the art in that, oh my God. Anyway.
Yeah. So, and James meets this like woman who looks exactly like Mary.
Yeah. And that's Laura. Yeah.
No, it's Maria.
Maria. Right.
And she's a stripper. She works at the strip club.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can be your fantasy. Like, this town is scary. Can you take care of me?
Yeah.
And so like portions of the game, she's following you around, and she's a really interesting thing, because people talk about like what is real and what's not real in Silent Hill.
Yeah.
And in this game, there are other characters who are experiencing their own psychological torture.
Yeah.
In the town, there's Eddie and there's Angela, and there's also a little girl named Laura who seems like she's just in a normal town. Like, it's not a horror town for her.
Yeah.
Which is really, really freaking cool.
Yeah.
And Eddie and Angela, we can talk about them, but the one thing I really love is that for a moment you get to discover what their other worlds look like.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. Like, we should mention that. There's just so much in this game. So you meet Eddie I think before we move on directly to Eddie, I think we should maybe mention that Maria is, in my opinion, Maria is not real. She's not there seeing another, world or anything like that. Maria is literally just another demon that's there to torment James. She looks just like his dead wife, except she's maybe what he wanted her to be. So that, which is awkward. But yeah, she's a very sexualized version of his wife. So, but yeah,
I feel like Maria is manifestation of what James feels Mary's wrath to be like. Like, she's taunting him in the sexualized way, like knowing that he wanted that and not her or something like that. Yeah. And at the end, there's several points where she like yells at him, like, you're supposed to take care of me at one point. She like yells at him. And I'd like to get to a point and talk about the endings, because Maria shows up in 3 of the 4 endings. And Mary shows up in 1 of them. And I want to talk about that. Yeah. But I don't know if now is the right time.
Yeah, let's talk about Eddie and everybody, and then we'll revisit Maria. Okay, so we'll start with Eddie. And you meet him in the apartments. And the way you stumble across him is you hear this like vomiting sound, I think. Right? And then you kind of have to wander your way through the apartment. And by this point, I'd just like to say, you've run into Pyramid Head. You've seen that horrific scene where you have to hide in the closet and then watch him. It's just like this whole like, what the hell is happening? And you're jumping pretty much at any sound. So when you hear this human like vomiting sound, at least I panicked a little, and I stood outside the door for a very long time before I got the courage to go inside. But when you do, it's almost like this weird relief, because, it's a human. And, he's vomiting in a toilet. Okay, it's not too bad. But yeah, that's Eddie.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Do what?
I didn't do anything. I swear. He was like this when I got here.
My name's James. James Sunderland.
Eddie.
Eddie. Who's that dead guy in the kitchen?
I didn't do it. I swear I didn't kill anybody.
You're not friends with that red pyramid.
Red pyramid thing? I don't know what you're talking about. Honest. I did see some weird-looking monsters. They scared the hell out of me, so I ran in here.
Well, I guess this place isn't too safe either. What happened here anyway?
I told you, I don't know. I'm not even from this town. I just...
You too, huh? Something just brought you here, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Eddie is like, he's overweight and somewhat childish. I don't actually know how old Eddie is supposed to be. But he's got like the fashion appropriate for the era, like fuzzy wristbands. Yep. Like a pop punk guy. Yeah. and he's got like a backwards baseball cap, and he's got these like piercing blue eyes and this like somewhat wild face. And he's vomiting into this toilet, and outside in the apartment room there is a fridge with a dead body in it. Yeah. And Eddie says, I didn't do it. I didn't kill him. He doesn't even give you a chance to ask him. He just immediately says, I didn't do it.
It wasn't me. Yeah. It was like that when I got here or something.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And James like tries to ask him, like, do you see what's going on here? And Eddie doesn't really engage him on that. So it doesn't really give James a sense of if what he's experiencing is what Eddie's experiencing. And then eventually James is just like, okay, well, please take care of yourself. Please be safe. I'm going to go now.
Yeah.
And then you leave him.
God. But it's what kills me is that you can still hear him vomiting when you leave.
I know. It's
So it's just kind of like, oh God, yeah. So now, Eddie was bullied. Like I think there's a line where he says, I may be a disgusting fat piece of shit, but it doesn't matter. Basically, it's all the same once we all die. Which I thought was interesting. Now, why do you think he's vomiting in the toilet?
I think that there is some it's hard for me to say because it's hard for me to detangle it from actual real life weight issues, right?
Yeah.
So him vomiting and him being seen eating, I think are shorthands for his weight issues.
Yep, I think so too. And I definitely think that it was a binge and a purge thing that they were showing you. Because
it could have been that he was upset from the dead body, which I think is another
that's the
implication.
Surface level. I think you're supposed to just assume that, but I actually think because it's his demons, right? In his world, this is what he's experiencing, and we know that they didn't really care about trigger warnings because that the rape scene in the beginning. So I feel like they were definitely telling a very specific story with Eddie, and that he was being bullied. And he says a couple of things. He says, not only does he call himself a fat ass, but I think he calls himself a waste of skin. All of his dialogue is basically about how he feels that he's been bullied because of his body.
And he's very angry.
Yeah,
he's very
so
angry
and he's really mad about it. But I definitely think the pizza, the fact that he had a whole pizza and then he's vomiting is I definitely think that was a binge and a purge thing that they were trying to show with him.
And when James finds him with the pizza, and he says, "How can you eat at a time like this?" Yep. And Eddie's just like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, what? There's nothing going on here. But yeah, I think in Eddie's world, he's just surrounded by people who are just bullying him, basically, who are just saying all this stuff is happening, and he doesn't react well to that. Yeah.
So the canon for what happened to Eddie in the real world before he came to Silent Hill. Yeah. If I can go there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go there. Let's go all the way through each character and kind of how they, This is great format, actually.
What happened to him is that he killed a dog. It was the dog of a football player who had been bullying him. And then I believe he shot that football player in the knee.
Yes.
And that he never actually killed anyone, but he keeps ending up in situations in Silent Hill where he is killing people.
Yeah.
And in the final room where you fight him, you come to him. It's like in a little antechamber, but before a large freezer room. And he's like, there's a dead guy, and he is manic, and he says he was saying horrible things to me, and so I shot him, and it felt good.
Yeah. And I think, is that at the cafeteria, in the prison?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's the one time you see him before that, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I skipped that. So you see him in the cafeteria one final time before the boss fight, which I think is really interesting because it's the cafeteria. You see him throwing up in a bathroom.
Yeah, he's always
you see him
eating pizza with Laura.
Yep. Or he's in the cafeteria at the prison.
Yep. It's very, very clear what they were going for, I think. It's interesting because they just took time to show the slow descent into madness for each character, or for each side character that was also in Silent Hill. So by the time you get to the prison, which is really fucked up, by the way, that was probably the most terrifying experience I've ever had in a game, was the prison in Silent Hill 2. But by the time you get to the prison, you don't really realize it until maybe after the game is over, but you're just as mad as Eddie. You're just as insane, but we just don't see it. And we're looking at, Eddie or, Angela, and we're not realizing our descent into madness is along the same track. But in that moment, Eddie, I think is just kind of he's absolutely snapped, and he's like, oh yeah, I think he's like slumped down and he's muttering like, oh, how easy it was to kill someone. He was like, you just put a gun to their head and pow.
Killing a person ain't no big deal. Just put the gun to their head, pow.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yep.
Yep. And then and there's a dead body on the table of the cafeteria, which I also think is pretty interesting that it's on the table. And
he says he didn't do it, I think, in that moment as well.
No, I think he actually says he defends it. At this point, he's like, the guy had it coming, and he was making fun of me with his eyes, even though he didn't say anything.
You killed him?
But it wasn't my fault. He made me do it.
Calm down, Eddie. Tell me what happened.
That guy, he had it coming. I didn't do anything. He just came after me. Besides, he was making fun of me with his eyes, like that other one.
Just for that, you killed him?
What do you mean, just for that?
Eddie, you can't just kill someone because of the way they looked at you.
Oh yeah? Why not? Till now I always let people walk all over me.
Oh man. Which is very frightening. It's very frightening. I found it very frightening whether or not Eddie was going to lose it and attack me, you know, and every time I walked away from an encounter with Eddie or Angela, I was like, oh, thank God. I just kind of felt this relief.
And it's interesting to me that Eddie is a boss. So in that final room, you see him, and what you see is different. It's his other world, I believe.
Yes, I agree. Because it's full of like hanging corpses.
Yeah.
Like, but they're hanging this, like they're slaughtered like meat, like food. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So before we dive into his other world, we might just want to explain.
Yes.
I know we mentioned briefly that there was a slip into another reality and then back again. But let's talk about that for a second. So
the other world,
bum, bum, bum. So as you're playing the game, it's triggered by an air raid siren.
Yes. And it happens quite late in Silent Hill too. It's not until you get into the hospital that you go into the other world for the first time. And it is, I'm sorry, I just took that over. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, go for it. No, that's perfect.
It is basically a very wet and like flooded and rusted kind of space. It's very dark. There is less light. When you're outside in the other world, it is like not foggy. It's just dark. And you can't see, it's so dark you can't see very far beyond you. And there's places where things are actually literally flooded in the hotel in the end. Like the basement of the hotel is flooded and you're like walking through like waist high water. It's very different than all the other Silent Hill games that tend to have more of a bloody and rusted otherworld. This one is definitely like muted and dark and almost more blues in its colors.
Oh God,
not so red. Is there anything you want to say about his other world?
No, I think you covered it real well. Other than the hanging meat corpses and how it still relates to food, you know, like he's butchering these people. But yeah, that's it. And we mentioned that already. So,
and I do think that Eddie's world has like a green fog to it.
Yeah, it does.
There's like a green smoke or tinge to everything.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
I know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But also, like, I feel like it's funny because I feel like sometimes on an initial look, you might say, oh, they did that just to differentiate. So you realized that you are in not your other world, but you're maybe potentially in Eddie's other world. But then when you actually break it down, it's like, no, man, this is just what they wanted. Oh, it's real good.
Yeah.
The final encounter with Eddie is a little bit disturbing because he's got his gun out, he's pointing it at his own head and other people, and he's just, well, you basically, and he's waving it around, and he says, if anybody makes fun of me, I'll kill them. And he's just basically shouting every horrible thing that was ever said to him.
He always busted my balls. You fat, disgusting piece of shit. You make me sick! Fat ass, you're nothing but a waste of skin! You're so ugly, even your mama don't love you! Well, maybe he was right. Maybe I am nothing but a fat, disgusting piece of shit. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead. And the corpse can't laugh.
And then you have to fight him.
That's when he tells you that he killed the dog and he shot the football player.
Right. Okay.
And then you go into the room. So you start in the antechamber, and then you go into the room with all the hanging corpses. And he just starts, I believe he actually says, he's like, oh, James, like, you actually never liked me. You've actually been laughing at me this whole time.
Yep.
And then he attacks you. And you have to fight him until he dies. And then James just sort of like stumbles over and is like, I killed a human.
Yeah.
And then he says, Mary, are you really here?
Yeah.
Like, there's no break. He just goes literally from, I killed a human, to, Mary, could you really be here? You're like, if you don't know the reveal at this point, you just don't realize that it seems like such a strange, like, change of thought immediately. But from him to go, like, the realization of killing a human to immediately thinking about Mary, if you know what happened, you just go, oh.
Yeah. And
that's fucked up.
If I had to just look this up real quick.
Okay.
There was the last scene. I just remember it bothering me, and I couldn't remember why, and I know exactly why now. So that cut, when they show that you've killed Eddie, they don't show his face. They show him lying down and with the gun in his hand, and James is leaning over him, and blocking Eddie's face is another meat corpse. And I just remember visually being like, holy shit, the symbolism in that moment. Like, oh my God. It was really cool and also disturbing. And I wanted to look up the last thing that he says to James, which is, don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. You and me, we're the same. We're not like other people. Don't you know that? And then he says, let's party. And I think that's the fight then that you have after that, which is just super crazy.
Get a chill down your spine.
Right? Like, oh.
Do you know what it does to you, James? When you're hated, picked on, spit on, just because of the way you look, after you've been laughed at your whole friggin' life. Don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. You and me are the same. We're not like other people. Don't you know that? Let's party!
And that marks the end of our first episode on Silent Hill 2. I think this might be our very first 3-parter, but I promise every bit is just as juicy as this first one. Our guest today was Stevie Ray Drawn, freelance illustrator extraordinaire, and you can find more of her work at stevieraydrawn.com, and that is spelled StevieRaeDrawn.com. And then she is on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, all of the same name. The Deep Dive Podcast is brought to you by PVTV, and you can find us at deepdivecast.com, as well as on Twitter and Instagram at deepdivecast. If you like what you hear, please consider rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. You can also become a patron of the show by visiting us at deepdivecast.com/support. Patrons receive various perks like monthly black and white wallpapers, high-quality versions of each episode, bonus episode content, and of course, yes, my favorite part, the knowledge that you directly are keeping the Deep Dive afloat. And speaking of keeping the Deep Dive afloat, now's the time to shout out 2 of our patrons, Vardis and Driving Me Spare. Thank you both so much for your support, and this joke's for you. What do you call 2 octopuses that look exactly the same? Identical. I'm sorry. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we bring you an in-depth look at Silent Hill 2, a survival horror game about madness, punishment, and our inner demons and monsters. It was developed by Konami, directed by Tsuboyama Masashi, written by Owaku Hiroyuki, with a crazy, amazing score composed by Yamaoka Akira. And our guest today is Stevie Ray Drawn, freelance illustrator and also the creator of Weatherwax Coven. And of course, she is a huge fan of Silent Hill 2. I'd just like to note that Silent Hill 2 is rated R, and while we have talked about some heavier subjects in past episodes, this one's going to be pretty intense just because it's a horror game and there were a lot of really graphic and heavy scenes, and it is one of my favorites of all time and totally worth a playthrough, but divers' discretion is advised. As always, we recommend you play the game before listening because we're going to dive deep, and in the abyss, there be spoilers. And now, without further ado, let's descend. Should we talk about Angela?
Yeah, because Angela says something similar.
So Angela, I think you find Angela for the first time in a cemetery, right?
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Okay. Angela's story, they're all very disturbing, but Angela's bothered me a little bit more than Eddie's did, just because I feel like it took me a while to realize what was happening. And then once I realized what was happening, I was like, oh my God. And then why is she being punished? Like, I just couldn't help but feel like really badly for Angela. Mm-hmm. So Angela's voice acting really lends, I feel like, to her confusion and what's happening for her. So Angela was actually abused by her dad, I think, and she ends up killing him to stop being abused. Mm-hmm. However, obviously it doesn't stop her from hating herself for a very, very long time. So I think she's in Silent Hill either because of her immense self-loathing or because she killed her dad. I'm not quite sure which there, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. She is, I just checked it, I looked it up. She is 19.
Okay.
And she's so the Silent Hill wiki says she's a homeless teenage runaway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know if that is like corroborated in the game itself. She's in Silent Hill looking for her mother. And
yeah, that's right.
She said her father and her brother are there too. And I do think that she was primarily abused by her father, but maybe also by her brother.
Do you think maybe her brother knew about it and didn't stop it? Or do you think he also abused her?
I think that he may have also contributed. I think her mother even knew about it eventually. Yeah. So you meet her initially in the graveyard, and then you have multiple touch points with her throughout the story. The next time you see her, I'm trying to remember. Oh, it's in the apartment.
It's in a bedroom, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she's got the knife, and I thought she was going to kill us. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's there in the apartments. There is a second attached apartment building that you have to kind of jump through a window to get to. Mm-hmm. She's in that building, and there's a room that is it's like a giant mirror, and it looks like it was a bedroom, but it has no furniture in it. And she's laying on the floor with a knife in her hand.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah, I'm James.
Angela.
Angela, okay. I don't know what you're planning, but There's always another way.
Really? But you're the same as me. It's easier just to run. Besides, is what we deserve.
No, I'm not like you.
You afraid? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Did you find your mother?
Not yet. She's not anywhere.
Did she live in this apartment building?
I don't know.
So, all you know is she lived in this town.
What did you say? How do you know that?
Well, I just figured, 'cause this is where you're looking for her. How else would I know?
Yeah,
Am I right?
I'm so tired.
So, why did you come to this town anyway?
I'm sorry. Did you find the person you're looking for?
Not yet. Her name's Mary. She's my wife.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Anyway, she's dead. I don't know why I think she's here.
She's dead?
Don't worry. I'm not crazy. At least, I don't think so.
I've got to find my mama.
Should I go with you? This town's dangerous. Now I know what you meant back there in the cemetery.
I'll be okay by myself. Besides, I'd just slow you down.
What about that?
James points to the knife.
Will you hold it for me?
Sure. No problem.
If I kept it, I'm not sure what I might do.
It's at this point James makes a step towards Angela.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel bad. Please don't.
And that's probably the most haunting line Angela has at this point, because in that moment she's reliving her trauma with James. She says, no, please don't. And we don't know if in that moment she saw James or if she saw her dad.
James thinks she's suicidal, and he asks her to give him the knife. And then she gets startled, and she brandishes the knife at him and tells him to stay away because she's frightened, you know.
Yeah.
And then eventually she puts it on the table and leaves. And you can take the knife, and you can use it to get one of the endings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you look at it a lot throughout the game, and you take a lot of damage throughout the game, you can get the in-water ending, which we should talk about that later. So then, when do we see her next?
I actually don't know, but I do want to mention something really quickly.
Sure.
Once, because I've played through the game a couple of times, but I remember the horror that I felt when she says at the very beginning, like one of her first lines, she says, "I'm not lying." She like yells at James to say, "I'm not lying," talking about looking for, because that first encounter that you have with her, it's like she's talking to someone else, not James. It's like she's reliving a conversation she's had a million times before. And her shouting, "I'm not lying," just gave me chills, and I had to put the controller down and walk away for a second because I realized what she was shouting, "I'm not lying" about. the abuse that's been happening to her. So I don't know if she was shouting to her mother at that time. Like maybe her mom didn't believe her, or her mom knew what was happening and just refused to acknowledge it. But yeah, that gave me chills. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on.
Oh God, her story is so...
It bothered me quite a bit. Yeah.
It's the most upsetting, I think, it's more upsetting to me than everything that happened with James.
Yeah. But that's because James, like, I empathize with Angela. Like, I know you killed a dude, but why are you in Silent Hill because of it? Like, like he was abusing you. It bothers me so much, but...
You may not see her again until the very end, I think.
I think that's actually correct.
So there's a thing in the prison that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a couple puzzles that reference all three of them.
Yeah.
And there's actually one in the apartment building as well. In the apartment building, you get 3 coins.
Yes.
One of them is the prisoner, and it's a woman. And that represents Angela. And then in the prison, there's 3 tablets. The tablet of the gluttonous pig, which is Eddie.
Yeah.
The tablet of the seductress, which is Angela. There's a lot to unpack in that.
Oh, is it Angela or is it Maria?
It's Angela. Everyone thinks it's Maria, but it's actually Angela.
Oh, God.
I know. That's fucked up.
That's fucked up. Oh, my God, that's fucked up.
And the tablet of the oppressor, which is James.
Yeah.
But I think that might be actually them playing on known expectations of what happens to survivors of abuse. Like that the shitty part of society says, like, what did you do to cause it? Blaming the victim.
Victim blaming Eddie. Oh, well, you're fat, so you kind of deserve it, and you seduced him. He didn't abuse you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that might even be how Angela feels.
Yeah, of course. Angela's got a lot of lines in here where she clearly blames herself for all of this.
And at the very end, in the final scene, when you see her, which is literally one of my favorite scenes of the whole game, she actually tells you that her mother told her that she deserved it.
What?
Yeah.
I remember her saying, we're the same. It's what we deserve. And are you afraid? I remember that, but I definitely don't remember her saying her mom.
Or that she was asking for it or something along those lines.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I
do remember there being some drama between her and her mother, like her mom kind of being upset that her dad would come to her and not her mom.
Yeah. So, you see her once before this. I actually...
Yeah.
I probably just blocked it out on purpose because it's the most upsetting scene, which is the boss fight with the abstract daddy.
The door. Oh,
yes.
My God. Okay, so the first time I played this, I didn't know what was going on, so it was totally fine. But the second time, I couldn't stop crying. I was like, this is horrific. So what happens is you have this boss fight with what looks like it's just a door, which obviously you guys can figure out the symbolism there, but she keeps calling the door Dad, right? She keeps saying Daddy to the door. Oh, God.
Yeah. She says Daddy, no. And it's actually, I'm going to make this more horrifying for you, and I'm so sorry. The abstract daddy, if you look up pictures of it, it's not a door, it's a bed, and it has 2 figures under flesh sheets stuck to the bed, writhing on it.
Oh, Jesus.
It's...
Oh God. I would have oh my God, and there's a penis.
Wait, what?
Yeah, actually, look at this.
Okay, I need to look at it now. Oh, Yep.
That's real fucked up.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
So, you know what would have been just as horrifying? The door. He obviously comes to the door, and it's fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't need two things writhing on a bed and a penis head.
Yeah.
I don't need... That's fucked up.
There's pistons in the walls in holes, and all the walls are fleshy. It's a horrifying encounter.
And that's her other world.
Yes.
I think, yeah.
In the end, her other world is all flames, so I think that a lot of it... I'm not sure if the experience that James has with her is a crossover between their worlds, or if it is hers. That part's not clear. But I do know in the end, when you see her in the flames, she says, "This is what it's always like for me." And I don't know if the one in the boss fight is hers or his, or a combination. So
Isn't that interesting?
yeah. So you have this revelation of what is happening to her. One thing I like about this encounter is you fight the abstract daddy. You take it down, but it doesn't die. She actually picks up the television in the room and crushes it. So like she gets to do that, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that they put that detail in there.
Are you okay? Angela, relax.
Don't order me around!
I'm not trying to order you.
So what do you want then? Oh, I see. You're trying to be nice to me, right? I know what you're up to. It's always the same. You're only after one thing.
No, that's not true at all.
You don't have to lie. Go ahead and say it. Or you could just force me. Beat me up like he always did. You only care about yourself anyway. You disgusting pig.
Angela.
Don't touch me. You make me sick.
But even after she vanquishes that demon of hers, she still can't get over how much she hates herself.
Yes, absolutely. So then you come to her in the final scene. I think it might be, it's right before or after you have realized what happened to you. I think it might be right after you realized like how James killed Mary.
Yeah.
And you're going through your flooded version of the Otherworld Hotel, and you come to a room that's in total flames, and Angela's there. And you have like a really meaningful conversation with her. Say like, she tells you like, oh, this is what my experience is like. Like I was looking for my father and my brother, but they're gone now, and I can't find my mom, so I'm gonna just gonna go, or something like that. Like it's very peaceful. I think what it is she seems much more lucid than she has in the other conversations. Like
like she's finally okay. Like she's come to terms with everything.
And she's talking to you, not to someone else that she thinks you are.
Yeah, because every other conversation has been like she's repeating something else that's happened in her life. Yeah. And in this one, she's actually acknowledging you.
Oh, I just remembered. She thinks you're her mom at first.
Yeah.
And she like goes up and like touches James's face, and she's like, Mama. And then she realizes it's James, and then she's lucid.
And I just remembered it's a staircase, not a room. And that's pretty symbolic by itself. But James comes to the edge of the staircase, and Angela is already on top of the stairs. And the music changes from this, mechanical, clanking, creepy undertone beat to this wonderful piano score, which typically is what happens when you see Angela. It's a sad piano score, and it's just another instance of where they used music to really set the mood.
Thank you for saving me. But I wish you hadn't. Even Mama said it. I deserved what happened.
No, Angela, that's wrong.
No, don't pity me. I'm not worth it. Or maybe you think you can save me. Will you love me? Take care of me? Heal all my pain?
Angela looks beside her to a very graphic display, similar to Abstract Daddy.
That's what I thought.
Angela turns completely to face the display and stares at it for quite some time while we see James actually hanging his head in shame.
James, give me back that knife.
No, I won't.
Saving it for yourself?
Me? No. myself.
Now the camera angle switches back to James's point of view as he watches Angela ascend the staircase that's still on fire. And it's a very moving moment because the symbolism here is Angela has reached peace with what she's done and what's happened to her, and she is kind of ascending away from these flames. And James is still stuck.
It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too. For me, it's always like this.
Fucking what?
Uh-huh. It makes me want to play Silent Hill 2 as Angela.
I know. Can some fans get together but see, that would just be horrific. Not that it isn't already horrific going through as James, but I feel like I'd have to be in the perfect mindset to be able to sit down and play as Angela, because that's a tragedy of a story.
Do you know what Angela says to James about him being called there?
I think she says, we deserve it, right? Like, you're just like me. And I think what got me is I think she says, are you afraid? Because she's very much not in that final encounter. She's resigned and she's like, I'm ready to accept my fate, kind of. But yeah, I think that's what she says.
She says something like, you're not innocent. Like, you are here for a reason too, or something like that. I can't remember when she says that. I think it might be right after the boss fight.
Yeah. You're the same as me, I think she says.
Yeah, we're the same. And at this point, you're like, what did James do? Like, what the heck is going on? Yeah, right?
Because you're like, holy crap, Eddie killed some people. Angela killed someone. What did James do? Why is James here? And then that's super interesting because then you continue.
Can I tell you about one of my favorite moments?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you go into the prison, you jump into a series of holes. You start in the Historical Society, and you go down a very, very long staircase.
God, that is like one of my favorite parts of the game.
I know.
Period.
I know. The Dissension has like so many levels to it, and it like is so amazing. So you walk around a little bit, you jump in a hole, you jump in another hole. Eventually, you go through the prison, and then you jump in more holes after the prison. And then you come to a graveyard, like an indoor graveyard. And there are 3 graves on the far side, and they are marked Angela,
Eddie, and
James.
Yeah.
And the only exit from this room is to jump into James's grave.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I know. It is like such an incredible experience of that game, because it's just like this silent moment of like this dark grassy room, and there's graves to read, and there's a save point, and it's like a breath. But then it's like, in order to continue, you have to jump into this grave.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's so good. And it's after you've encountered both Eddie and Angela's deaths when you see this. So their graves are covered and yours is open, so it's pretty much suggesting that, James isn't going to make it out of this, just like anybody else. This is his punishment, and then he's going to die.
Yeah.
Which I think is very, very cool. Also, one of my favorite parts, I just want to talk about that dissension in the staircase. They do something absolutely incredible gameplay-wise, in that as you're descending the staircase, you can continue to you will walk down that staircase forever. And you can be walking for 10, 15 minutes straight down that staircase. You only progress when you turn around and walk back the other direction. And I don't know if it's at that moment in the staircase, but I know they do. It's one of the staircases that you walk down in Silent Hill 2, because it totally blew me away when that happened. I walked for a good 5 minutes before I was like, what the hell is happening here? And then I turned around, and then it was like, boom, I exited right away. But otherwise, you can just sit there freaking yourself out for 5, which is what happened to me. I was like, oh my God, how long is this staircase? Like, what is happening? And I just got more and more scared as the music, ramped up. And then finally I was like, did I mess something up here? And then I turned around and walked out, and it was a different area than where I had come from. So, or I think you turn around and walk and you can't exit, but then when you turn around again, you go down. I can't remember how it's laid out, but I know it's like the moment you turn around and then turn back around, you can exit. But it's so good.
It's such a Such a psychological experience.
Yeah, it's they do a really good job of messing with your psychology and making you feel uncomfortable throughout the game. And like you don't know what's real and what's not real, or they do a beautiful job of that. Should we talk about Laura?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Laura, I think she has a couple of lines that definitely make you assume, as we mentioned before, that she's in a regular town and she sees regular things and thinks everybody else is kind of nuts. And I think you meet her. She mentions your wife, right? Like Mary, like she knows Mary.
Yeah, at the end of the game, you find that out.
Yeah. So wait, is the first time that you see her actually when she kicks the...
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you're like, what the hell? And then I actually don't remember the encounters in which you see her. So
Yeah.
I'll
Let me
pass the
just
buck, yeah.
go over them really quick. So she steps on your hand when you're trying to get the key and then runs away. You see her outside of the apartment building sitting on a wall saying mean things of some sort. She's basically always being kind of like a child bully, kind of.
She calls Eddie a fatso, right?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next time you see her is in the bowling alley with Eddie when he's eating pizza and they're having a conversation. And then you chase her into the hospital. And then James finds her in a room in the hospital. And she says something about having seen Mary recently, because it's been multiple years since she died. So she says something that doesn't line up for James about when Mary died. And he yells at her and tells her she's a liar after he promised her he wouldn't yell at her.
Yep. Which is super fucked up.
Yeah. And then she leads him into a room where there's a boss fight. She like traps him in this room with these, they are called flesh lips. They're like bed frames with like mouths and legs coming out of the bottom.
And she doesn't even see Maria or anything.
No.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
And then I think you don't see her again until you get to the hotel.
Yeah.
And she's like playing a piano in the hotel and she tells you that she got a letter from Mary. And then you learn that she was in the hospital where Mary was in the hospital. And Mary's letter says that she wanted to adopt Laura.
Yeah.
And the letter, there's some timeline stuff that doesn't totally make sense to me. The letter is like addressed for Laura's 8th birthday. And then James asks Laura when her 8th birthday was. And she says like last week or something.
Yeah.
And so James thinks that the letter is recent, but the way it's framed, it seems like it could have just been given to her on her 8th birthday.
Oh yeah,
so.
I think that that's definitely what was implied.
But that's not what James thinks.
Yeah.
He thinks that Mary didn't die.
Well, James is nuts, so silly James.
and then you see her again right in the hotel room right after you discover what happened. And he tells Laura that he killed Mary. And Laura freaks out. Yeah. And then she runs away. And I think you don't see her again until one of the endings where you go out of the town with her. So I think that's all the encounters with Laura.
Yeah. And I think probably she does have a confrontation with James where she's like, I hate you. Mm-hmm. Why did you do that? And he basically voices everything that James is sort of already thinking. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate you. Why did you do this? You never cared for her. And I think she's like, she was always waiting for you to be present with her. Yeah.
And to come see her.
Yeah. She was always waiting for you to come and visit. And I think, is it at that point where you discover that he kind of like stopped visiting her? Because he does spend a prolonged amount of time away from her while she was sick.
I think that is like,
or is it always just implied?
That's the most, it's implied there. And then also in the final letter in the ending, when it reads it, like she says that she was waiting for him or something.
Yeah. And that he just would never come. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, it's worth noting that we don't know what disease Mary had or what illness Mary had, but she was horribly like grotesque. Like her face was really messed up. She just looked really unwell. Like she describes herself as looking like a monster, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And so that's part of like why there's so much face stuff like Eddie's face being covered when he dies, and the nurses having their faces covered, and like the mannequins don't have faces, and the lying figures don't have faces. It's just like a constant recurring theme.
God, this game is so good. Okay, wait, can I just say this?
Yeah.
There's some shit in Silent Hill 2 that makes an appearance in Silent Hill 4.
Yeah. Walter Sullivan?
Yes.
I know a little bit about that.
Now, I'm going to say this, and I would like to keep it in the podcast.
Okay.
Because it's a proud moment that I have.
Sure.
Moments like this rarely ever happen to me, but we're playing Silent Hill 4, and we came across the, Walter Sullivan in an article or something. And I was like, Walter Sullivan, isn't that the guy from... Isn't he mentioned in Silent Hill 2 in a random article or magazine that you read? And my sister at the time was like, no, you're crazy. You're just making that up. But then we found out later that I was right. There is one random article in Silent Hill 2 where you read about Walter Sullivan. And they basically, I don't know if they had planned Silent Hill 4 at that time, or if they were like, let's visit this, this world building thing that we mentioned in here. But man, it was great. That moment, I was like, oh God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
the interconnectedness is great. And that's one of the things, we can put this in the podcast too. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I love is the maps, the repeating hospital, getting to see the otherworld version of Brookhaven Hospital in Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 and how different they are.
Yep.
The otherworld Brookhaven Hospital in Silent Hill 3 is my favorite moment in that game. So
I don't know if I ever finished Silent Hill 3. Yeah, I know. I probably did, but I can't remember any of it, which is just me. It's not the game. It's just when it's been a long time, I kind of forget things. So I'll have to replay through that. But I know that Silent Hill 3, have you ever seen the movie Session 9?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So you need to watch that movie because Silent Hill 3 is inspired a lot by that film. It's very disturbing.
Great.
In the way that Silent Hill is disturbing. It's one of my favorite scary movies.
Great.
And it takes place like in an asylum, in an abandoned asylum, and there's the fucking wheelchair. The wheelchair is in it, and it's so scary.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I feel like Stay. You like Stay, right? The movie?
I love Stay. Oh my God, I love Stay. Nobody's ever seen that fucking movie. Oh my God, it's so good. Everybody stop listening to the podcast before you play Silent Hill 2. Go watch Stay. I need a movie podcast.
I know.
Deep dive movie edition.
Yeah. So where were we? We were talking about Laura?
Yeah, we were talking about Laura, and basically, I think the last thing that we mentioned was her kind of being angry at James and saying like, why did you do this? And she was always waiting for you. And basically, you're an asshole.
Yep. I feel like Laura is the one character who kind of speaks truth. She's annoying and she's childish and she like locks James in a room with a boss, but she
doesn't see that boss.
She doesn't experience the world like that. It's not a dangerous world. It is still strange for her, a child, to be walking around a town by herself.
Yeah. And I think she says something like, oh, yeah, well, I followed her letter here. Yeah, she basically says, I love you like my very own daughter. So anyway, I'll go ahead and read it. Well, parts of it anyway.
Okay.
She says... And Laura, about James. I know you hate him because you think he isn't nice to me, but please give him a chance. It's true, he may be a little surly at times, and he doesn't laugh much, but underneath, he really is a sweet person. And Laura, I love you like my very own daughter. If things had worked out differently, I was hoping to adopt you. Happy 8th birthday. Now, she says, yeah, I know. At the very beginning of the letter, she says, I'm leaving this letter to Rachel to give to you after I'm gone. I'm far away now in a quiet and beautiful place. Now, Laura misinterprets this letter and thinks she's talking about Silent Hill rather than heaven. So Laura's kind of in her own state of denial of not wanting to realize that Mary's dead and doesn't find out really until James is forced to admit to himself and to Laura that he killed her. Which I think is super interesting. Now, what I also find really interesting is that I think there is an unspoken, or maybe it's corroborated with another game. I'm not sure, but there is an idea that James was taking Mary's dead body with him to Silent Hill, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
The theory that Mary's body was in the trunk of the car at the beginning of the story. I think someone hacked the engine and opened the trunk and saw something in there that made them think of this.
Oh my God.
I don't know if this is Silent Hill lore or not, you know?
yeah, if it's lore or if it's actually real.
I haven't looked into it.
Oh my God, I just looked it up. Okay, so the art director confirms. He says that he would have wanted to put Mary's body in the back seat. Do we ever see the back seat of the car?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So yeah, it's definitely, I guess the novelization affirms it and follows the in the water ending.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you want to talk about the endings?
Yeah, let's talk about the endings. Oh yes, please. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to you because I know you just rewatched the entire game because you are a champion, and I will chime in.
I'm going to put there are 4 endings, and I found really good recordings of them. I'm going to give them to you for later.
Okay.
So that you can look at them. And these ones are important because the ending includes, so we were talking about the scene with Laura in the hotel when he tells Laura that he killed Mary. What happens is after that, you go through the hotel in the other world. You encounter Angela. Time and space are messed up. The music is the best music in the whole game. Like, you go into one door and get popped out of another door down the hallway. Like, yeah, it is amazing. And then you end up leaving the hotel through a long hallway. And when you go down that hallway, you hear a conversation between Mary and James on her deathbed where she's like saying that she's a monster and she's ugly and she doesn't want him to look at her, and he's come to see her and she tells him just to go. She's upset with him. Yeah. And she says that the hospital is only keeping her alive because she has to pay them to be there when she's alive. And that she wishes that they would just like let her die or something like that. Yeah. So this is like complicating James's character. So like having sides of her experience where she wants to die and sides of her experience where she doesn't want to die make it hard to just pin him down as like a black and white character.
It'd be easier if they'd just kill me. But I guess the hospital is making a nice profit off me. They want to keep me alive. Are you still here? I told you to go. Are you deaf? Don't come back. James, wait. Please don't go. Stay with me. Don't leave me alone. I didn't mean what I said. Please, James. Tell me I'll be okay. Tell me I'm not going to die. Help me.
I think up until this point, you've encountered him being sexually frustrated. And when the nurse, Rachel, comes in, you know, he's sexualizing the nurse, you know, all this kind of stuff. Like, I think it might even be implied that Rachel and he had an encounter at one point, which is why the nurses are sexualized.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and also why he's like here, other than killing her, is this guilt that he has about, you know, not being true to her. But regardless of all of that, I feel like the moment it's revealed, you're like, wow, you asshole, you killed her because you just, you know, you wanted her to die and so you could move on with your life. Like, what a jerk. And then it's like, no, actually, she was suffering and she asked to die. And then it's kind of like you're in the same situation with that you were with Angela. Like, why is Angela being punished for that? You know, like,
So that part is the same for all the endings. And the endings in Silent Hill, basically, there's certain things that you can do throughout the game to get the endings. Yeah. The most common, like the standard one, I believe, is called the leave ending. Yeah. And so what happens is you go down this hallway, you hear this conversation, and then you go into an arena where you fight the final boss. Yeah. And the final boss in some versions is Mary, and in some versions is Maria. Yep. In all of the endings, except for the Maria ending, the final boss is Maria. In the Maria ending, the final boss is Mary. Wow. So you go and Maria is dressed in Mary's clothes with Mary's hair. It's not like bleached blonde anymore. It's dark blonde. She's wearing that same dress from the photograph and from the mannequin in the beginning. Yeah. And James says, Mary? And she's like, when are you ever going to stop making that mistake?
Wow.
And then he fights her. And then after you kill her, the dialogue in that part is different. So the endings that I showed you, they all incorporate that boss fight because part of it is different depending on the ending.
And I think there are 6 total endings, right?
Right. The four primary ones and then 2 joke ones.
Yeah.
And then, so in Leave, basically what happens is James, you see this final conversation with James and Mary, and not in the real world. It's kind of like him having a conversation with her in the current moment, but they're on her deathbed. And he tells her, I couldn't bear to see you suffer, and that's why I did it.
Yeah.
And he pauses and he says, that's not entirely true.
Oh, okay.
You should definitely put the audio for this in there.
I will. 100%.
Because this part is...
Mary?
James.
Forgive me.
I told you that I wanted to die, James. I wanted the pain to end.
That's why I did it, honey. I just couldn't watch you suffer. No. That's not the whole truth. You also said that you didn't want to die. The truth is, part of me hated you for taking away my life.
You killed me, and you're suffering for it. It's enough, James.
Mary?
James.
This part is the same between the 4 primary endings. In every single one of them, he says, I partly did it because I wanted
to be free, right?
Like it was selfish. Yeah, I wanted to be free. And then in the Leave ending, he leaves Silent Hill with Laura and her letter scrolls, and she tells him to move on.
And I had notes for this because I wanted to mention this in case for some crazy reason you have not played the game and you're still listening all the way through this podcast, or you've played the game and didn't realize there were multiple endings, or, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. To get the Leave ending, you have to keep your health pretty high, I think, and heal very frequently if you ever get attacked. Mm-hmm. You need to not spend a lot of time with Maria. Mm-hmm. And you need to, when you're in the hotel, you need to listen to the headphones and the hallway conversation. Yeah.
The headphones. I forgot the headphones.
Yep. And then, and you have to check Mary's photo and letter. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that you have to do to get the Leave ending.
I'm glad you got that information.
Yeah, I have them for all of them. So
great, we'll go through them.
Okay. So yeah, do you want to talk about the headphones?
That is probably my favorite. It's so hard for me.
I can't remember it. What happens?
So you go into this tiny little library and you pick up these headphones and you sit down at a desk and you're looking out over from the second story of the hotel over the foggy veranda or whatever, and there's a bed floating outside the window.
What?
And
I don't know if I ever did that.
I can't remember the conversation. I think it's a conversation between James and Mary, but just like the experience of like sitting down and like looking out the window and it revealing this bed floating outside the window. Just God. This game does surreal so good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
It is so good. I got the chills when I had that experience.
And actually, the way you said that right now, that is my favorite type of horror. Surreal horror. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing I'm working on I'm doing a 3-episode horror campaign, tabletop campaign right now. And I would say that Silent Hill 2 and the Silent Hill series is like a huge inspiration for me because I find surreal really terrifying if you do it right. Mm-hmm. So thank you for saying that, because I've never really been able to articulate what kind of horror I like the most. And that's it. That is it. Surreal fucking horror is my favorite.
Yeah, everything is just symbolism and you're just like soaking in it.
Yep.
Shall I tell you about the next ending?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So the next one is the rebirth ending. I don't actually know if there's a particular order for them. I'm kind of just going as I like through them.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
The rebirth ending is wild. So when you go up into the boss room, you see Maria in Mary's clothes and everything. Mm-hmm. And you have some sort of argument with her and you fight her. And then you see the same conversation, the same deathbed conversation between Mary and James. He tells her his motivations and she tells him not to suffer.
Yeah, like she forgives him sort of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's such a... He says, I've been selfish. And she says, then why are you suffering so much? Like, if it was just selfish for you, if you just wanted to be rid of me, why are you suffering so much?
Yeah.
And it's just like... And then she gives him the letter in all of them at the end of the cutscene. She gives him the letter. And he picks up her body and he carries her out. And then you see them in a boat on the lake.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the only tie-in to the cult of 1 and 3.
Of Silent Hill 1 and 3. Yep. Or 4 for that matter.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, the old gods are still here and I can't let you go. So, and then he takes her with the boat to an island. And I think the implication is that he's going to ask the old gods to resurrect her.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Which is something that, without going too much into it, there's a really big occult narrative in the whole Silent Hill series, but they don't really touch on it on Silent Hill 2 because they're specifically telling the story of James. Mm-hmm. So they kind of like, in this ending, they wink at it pretty much. Now, to get this ending, it has to be on a second playthrough. So you had to have already played the game one time, and you need to get, there's like a white chrism that you need, and then you need the Lost Memories book, which you get at the Texan gas station, and Obsidian Goblet you get at the Historical Society, and then you pick up the Crimson Ceremony book in the reading room of the Lakeview Hotel. You need all of those items to unlock this ending.
Does the Crimson Ceremony give any hints as to what the ceremony is?
Let me find out.
I'm like, I wonder if you read that book, if it tells you, so when you get to this ending.
Oh, shit, yeah. Okay, wow, yeah, there's a whole transcript of the book. Believers hearken to me, 20 score men and 7,000 beasts. Heed my words and speaketh them to all, that they shall ever be obeyed, even under the light and proud of the merciless sun. I shall bring down bitter vengeance upon thee, and thou shalt suffer my eternal wrath. Oh my God. Okay, thou shalt ever call upon me, and that is me in the place that is silent. So this sounds like the ritual done to them to bring them here. I'm the Crimson One. The lies and the mist are not they, but I. You all know that I am the one, and the one is I. Oh my God, this is so cool.
There's some stuff about the gods and the Crimson God.
Yeah.
And Valtiel in Silent Hill 3 and Pyramid Head. The Crimson One throughout Silent Hill 2 is usually a reference to Pyramid Head.
Yeah.
And in this continuity with the gods, Pyramid Head may be referencing some type of god, where Pyramid Head represents James, but as that god.
Yeah, I was going to say, because let's finish the endings first and then dive into Pyramid Head, because that's like a whole other amazing thing. Okay, so what ending did you want to do next?
Next, let's talk about the In Water, which is many people's favorite ending.
Yep, that's the one I got, actually, I think.
It is, I don't know, after all your feelings about James, it's like probably one of the most appropriate wrap-ups for him.
I think so, too.
It is not my favorite ending. And so what happens is you go through, you fight Maria's the boss. You have the same cutscene where Mary tells you to move on with your life or whatever and gives you the letter. And then there is a black screen and he says that there was only one outcome and he didn't know how he didn't see it. And he came to this town for one thing, and you hear his car revving. And then you see a underwater scene and her letter scrolls. So basically he commits suicide.
Yeah. Which is the same as what Angela does, and almost Eddie. I know you fight Eddie, but basically I think it's implied that Eddie would have shot himself had he not had that final confrontation with James.
Is it explicit? I thought Angela asked for the knife back.
She asks for the knife back, but then she she walks off, and then her grave is there. So it is very heavily implied that she takes her own life.
Totally. Totally.
And to get this ending, you have to check her knife. You have to look at her knife. Yeah. So I think it's pretty heavily implied that that's what he does. Now, this is where people discovered that the corpse was in the trunk of the car, because in the novelization version of Silent Hill, this is where he pulls her body out of the trunk, puts her in the passenger seat, and then he drives them both into the lake. So crazy.
What do you have to do to get this ending?
Oh, so you have to keep your health low. So you don't heal right away. You have to check Angela's knife, and you have to read the diary on the roof of Brookhaven, and the second letter that you can find in Neely's bar that's addressed to James. And then you also have to listen to the headphones and the hallway conversation in Lakeview Hotel.
Great. Okay. So the final of the 4 main endings is the Maria ending.
Yep.
And I think this might be my favorite for multiple reasons. But let me tell you what it is. So it is, and I remember this one a little bit less, but basically what happens is you go to the place to have the boss fight, and instead of looking out the window, it's Mary, and she is sitting on the bed that is in that space as well. Yeah. And she says, like, you've been going around with this woman who looks like me, or something along those lines, and I can't believe you ever thought that I would forgive you. And then she attacks him.
Yeah.
And in this one, you're killing her. I need to say, I forgot this. In all of the boss fights, you fight the boss until she is laying on the ground, and then she just keeps saying James until you shoot her to death.
Yeah. It's pretty bothersome. Do you have to shoot her, or can you use the other weapons?
You have to finish her.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to shoot her. You can hit her with the plank of wood over and over again, which is pretty fucked up.
Or with Pyramid Head's great knife, which you got earlier in the game.
Yep.
Which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
And then basically you have the cutscene, and Mary tells you to go on with your life. And then James meets back up. I think he meets back up with Maria, and they go off together.
They do, but when you guys leave, she starts coughing. Implying that, she's gonna be the same as Mary, which I think is pretty interesting.
The reason that I like this ending is because I see James as a very deluded character.
Yeah.
He has not been able to, come to grips with reality this whole time. And he's been really desperately trying to escape his own actions. Yeah. And all of his actions have been to make himself happier. So I love the idea of him following a path that he's desperately trying to make himself happier. And it's
just like the cycle over and over again.
I just love the idea of James suffering more.
Yeah. I think this probably is one of my favorite endings. I do prefer the water ending just because I feel like Angela did, Eddie did, and then James does. I feel like for me, it ties itself up pretty nicely. I don't know if I like the idea of James ever being able to leave Silent Hill once he's there. I do also like the idea. I think it's in this ending that they imply that Maria doesn't look anything like Mary. He's just been kind of imagining that. And so it never goes away. He still sees her as Mary. And then it's just kind of like implying that even if he continues a new relationship, he's always going to be plagued by what he did to Mary, which is super cool. And to get this ending, you have to keep your health high again. So you need to heal frequently and right away when he gets injured. And you have to spend a lot of time with Maria and protect her from monsters. So you have to make sure if she asks you to do anything, you need to do it. And then you have to visit her when she's sick and in Brookhaven.
Yep, you have to go back to that room a couple times.
Yep. And then when she dies in the labyrinth, you have to re-enter that room a couple of times. And then you do not listen to the headphones and the hallway conversation in the Lakeview Hotel.
Yep. And so then there's also some joke endings.
Yeah, there are, which is the UFO and the dog ending, I think.
They're Easter eggs that are in most of the Silent Hill games.
Yeah. So I think there's the UFO ending, which is basically like, it was all aliens. And then there's a dog one where I think the dog just continues barking and singing along.
Yeah, it's like the dog is in a control room and he was doing it. The one thing that is amusing in the UFO one, I believe, is that Harry Mason shows up, who is the protagonist from Silent Hill 1.
And that is where we are going to end the second episode of our 3-part dive into Silent Hill 2. Thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this adventure. Our guest today was Stevie Ray Drawn, freelance illustrator extraordinaire. And you can find more of her work at stevieraydrawn.com, on Twitter and Instagram and Patreon, all of the same name. And that is spelled STEVIERAEDRAWN. The Deep Dive podcast is brought to you by PBTV, that's me, and you can find us at deepdivecast.com, as well as on Twitter and Instagram at deepdivecast. And if you like what you hear, please consider rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. You can also become a patron of the show by visiting us at deepdivecast.com/support. Patrons receive various perks like monthly black and white wallpapers, high-quality versions of the episodes, bonus episode content, and, of course, the knowledge that you directly are keeping the Deep Dive afloat. Still my favorite part! And at this time, I'd like to shout out to all the patrons that keep us afloat by saying, yeah, boy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we bring you an in-depth look at Silent Hill 2, a survival horror game about madness, punishment, and our inner demons and monsters. It was developed by Konami, directed by Tsuboyama Masashi, written by Owaku Hiroyuki, with a crazy, amazing score composed by Yamaoka Akira. And our guest today is Stevie Ray Drawn, freelance illustrator and also the creator of Weatherwax Coven. And of course, she is a huge fan of Silent Hill 2. I'd just like to note that Silent Hill 2 is rated R, and while we have talked about some heavier subjects in past episodes, this one's going to be pretty intense just because it's a horror game and there were a lot of really graphic and heavy scenes, and it is one of my favorites of all time and totally worth a playthrough, but divers' discretion is advised. As always, we recommend you play the game before listening because we're going to dive deep, and in the abyss, there be spoilers. And now, without further ado, let's descend.
Do you want to talk about Pyramid Head?
Yeah, let's talk about Pyramid Head.
Oh.
The first thing that I want to say is Pyramid Head was probably one of my favorite villains, if you can call him that, of all time. Mm-hmm. And they did such a good job of kind of preparing you, or not preparing you rather, for the terror that is Pyramid Head. And I don't think Pyramid Head ever... Well, he does eventually like come after you, but in the first little while, he's just looming. Mm-hmm. He's just like this looming oppressive. They do such a good job of making him this scary oppressive presence without ever attacking you. He's just standing there in the bars at the beginning, and then you hide in the closet and see this like horrific thing. And then I think he ends up dragging one of the mannequins out behind him. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this very experience. And then that you see him in the apartment. This is probably the scariest fucking thing that I've ever had happen in a game. And it's you can miss it completely. But you're wandering around. They constantly throughout the game have you looking through the peepholes in the doors. Mm-hmm. And there's some stuff on the other side. Either you see kind of like hints as to where to go or just creepy, weird, gory things. There's rarely ever anything in the peephole, like a person or anything. But there's this one moment in the game where you can look through all the peepholes. And I think is it where is it? Is it in the hospital or is it in the apartment?
Tell me more about the peephole that we're talking about.
You can completely miss it. Basically, you have to look in a peephole that you've already looked in a second time. And there he is. He's standing there. And I don't even think he's doing anything, but it scared the shit out of me because I wasn't expecting it. And B, I then spent the next 20 minutes being like, oh my God, that door is like right here. Like he's going to come out any second now, but he doesn't. He never does.
I may have even totally missed it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the hospital, actually. And it's implied because he's standing over a bed.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's implied that, because that's James, right? So I think that's the moment. And maybe I might be messing that up, but I know it's definitely in one of the puzzles when you're trying to find stuff, and I'm just super forgetful. So I'm like, was it in this room? And then I looked through the peephole, and there he was, and it scared the bejesus out of me. And he's not doing anything. He's just like there. And oh man, though.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, let's talk about Pyramid Head.
he is one of the most frustratingly overused monsters from Silent Hill. When you think about Silent Hill, you think about Pyramid Head, but a lot of people argue that he should only be present when James is the character. I agree. He belongs in Silent Hill 2, and when I literally stopped playing Silent Hill 5 when he showed up. Yeah. I was like, that's cool, except this just totally pulled me out because that's James. Like you can't. Oh man, I was so mad. I stopped playing and I didn't pick it up again. I was really mad. Yeah. Was that Homecoming? Yeah, that was Homecoming. Yeah. So I did play Homecoming too, and I was just like, why is Pyramid Head? And he's buff. Why? Pyramid Head is literally not buff in Silent Hill 2. Nope. He's very similar to James with a giant thing on his head. I forgave it when they put Silent Hill 2 in the movie. Silent Hill. I forgave it because it was definitely, they did a bunch of different things in the movie that winked at all of the games. Like the fact that the main character, the guy in the beginning, he's supposed to be the main character from the first game, but he also looks like Henry, the character in Silent Hill 4. And, she looks like Heather from Silent Hill 3. And, it's like Silent. Yeah. So I forgave it. Like, okay, they want to do an homage to Silent Hill, the series. Of course, you're going to have Pyramid Head in there. But when I got to the Silent Hill 5, which is Homecoming, and I was playing through it, and I got over the fact that they gave you a health bar, which I really felt like they shouldn't have done because it takes away from the horror. And okay, it's combat centric, but the moment he showed up, I shut the game off. I was so mad. Like that's, you're exploiting something that was done so well in Silent Hill 2 and you're ruining it, Anyway, sorry, rant over. Like take that idea and make a monster. New. Yeah, make something new and horrific. You can't just rely on the old horror because it doesn't make any sense, and that's what made the second one so good. I know. Anyway. And there is also, I want to sometime talk about Pyramid Head and Valtiel together with this. Wait, what? Who's Valtiel? Valtiel is the guy who is turning all the pipes behind the scenes in Silent Hill 3. Oh, see, I can't remember Silent Hill 3 hardly at all. We're going to have to get you to play again. Yeah, I'm going to play it again. So, because Valtiel looks a lot like Pyramid Head without a pyramid on his head. That's interesting. So, it is but that is unrelated to this. So, Pyramid Head definitely represents James and James's oppressive side. In the beginning of the game, he drags around this giant knife, which is his, iconic weapon. Super phallic. Yep. Super violent. Yep. He's slow and lumbering. You can hear the scraping of the knife as he's walking. Yeah. And at the end of the apartments, you do have an encounter with him, but basically it's just you have to survive. You can't kill him. Yep. And then the air raid siren goes off and he leaves. And I find it interesting that you can't kill him because he's you, Yeah, you even, when you have the cutscene where you see him with the mannequins, you even shoot him. Yeah, yep, you do, and nothing happens to him. He just kind of looks at you and is like, what? He goes up to the closet that you're standing in and he grabs his pyramid, as if he's in pain or something, or as if it's a burden to him, and then he walks off. Which is just super interesting imagery anyway. Because, usually, typically you being in the closet is you hiding from something or not wanting to admit something. Usually it's
become whether or not if you're gay, you'll be considered in the closet if you're not out. But before it became pretty much synonymous with that, it was anything that you were not wanting to admit. They considered it skeletons in the closet or something like that. So I thought that was very interesting symbolism that they used there.
James in the closet.
Yeah, right. And it's like, oh, it's so good.
He loses the knife after that. And then when you see him, he has a spear.
Oh, that imagery. That's the prison, right? Because when you get to the prison, there's images of basically of justice, of like, we're going to come, and there's multiple pyramid heads in that painting with the spear.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
so
the
good.
puzzle with the tablet of the oppressor, the seductress, and the gluttonous pig.
Yeah.
And the place where you put them, you have that little mural of the 2 pyramid heads with the spears.
Oh, fuck, man.
And it's on a platform used for hanging prisoners.
Yeah.
So,
which is just so, that is just so cool, because it's like, not only is it on a platform for hanging prisoners, but I'm pretty sure you end up falling through a platform. Yeah. So like you're hanging yourself, which is just so crazy, because that's exactly what he's doing. He's like going through, and especially if you get the water ending where he does take his own life, that's this whole thing is basically him getting on the platform and ending it. Oh God, what?
and then
so good.
So after the prison, there's a labyrinth, which is a space
that's right.
it's the place where you can find the knife if you go to the right place.
Yeah.
And you're kind of walking through the twisty hallways of this labyrinth, and Pyramid Head is also in the labyrinth.
Yeah, multiple of him, right? There's 2 of him down there, I think.
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I'm pretty
it
sure
feels like there's 100 of them.
Yeah. Well, I think there's at least 2 of them down there. And it should be noted, by the way, for hardcore players or just like anybody who's going to play this game, the labyrinth, there is no map. You have to actually remember your way out.
He draws the map. Map.
Oh.
Like as you're in there, he starts
Has that been
drawing
every
it.
edition, or was that just in the HD edition? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, because I remember freaking out. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a map and I was just not aware of it. But yeah, I just remember freaking out and being chased by Pyramid Head and having to, literally I was shouting like left, and because I was playing with my friends, they'd be like, yes, and we were like trying to get out of the labyrinth that way. It was horrifying. Yeah, it was really scary.
I get so lost in there.
Yeah, so do I.
It's terrible.
So it was awful. We ran for quite a while before we got out.
And there's multiple layers. There's like a hallway layer, and there's like a sewer layer where you're like in these tunnels that are filled with water, and you're splashing around. And so you go up and down these ladders.
Which is super interesting if you get the in-water ending.
They're so good at messing with your sense of space and your spatial awareness, and like by just forcing you to keep going and getting back in that water. It's like its own form of like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And then I think the next time you see Pyramid Head is the penultimate boss fight, which is right before you confront the Mary Maria boss.
Oh, there's also one, it's worth mentioning. There's one fight with Pyramid Head where you're like trapped in this room and the water keeps like raising or lowering or something like that, or the water raises so that you can't go down the stairs, and you're basically trapped in this room, and it's a ruse. All you have to do is survive for a certain amount of time. But you can blow all of your ammo and everything trying to fight this guy, and eventually the time ends, and then the fight is over. I thought that was such an interesting choice and mechanic, because at that moment, because throughout the game in Silent Hill 2, something that I feel like they really did well is ammo is sort of rare, and they teach you to save your, like, especially like your rifle ammo and all that kind of stuff. They teach you to save that for the big fights, and then you're stuck using the plank or the pipe or anything like that in between, or at least you're trying to anyway. And in that moment, in that fight, you are panicked and you're saying, oh my God, it's Pyramid Head and he's chasing me and I'm in a tight room. I'm going to pull out my rifle. Oh my God, the rifle didn't kill. Oh my God, nothing is killing this man. I have used all of my ammo, all of my stuff. And then finally, it ends and you think, oh my God, not only does it tell you immediately, like, Pyramid Head is not unkillable, but he's just like,
he's super powerful. It makes you feel very helpless because you blow through all of your ammo.
Yeah.
Or you don't. But I feel like the only way you know that is if you've played the game before or if somebody told you.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you are absolutely most likely going to blow through all of your ammo and every weapon in your disposal to try to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the scene ends and you have nothing, which is so fucking incredible, because in a horror game, when you have no ammo or nothing to defend yourself, that's like, you know, it's perfect. They did a great job of doing that without being obvious, like, oh, you're gonna lose all of your stuff. You fall into this water pit and everything's gone. Like, no, they force you to do it.
Yeah.
You have no one to blame but yourself.
That reminds me of my most frightening moment in this game, which is not a Pyramid Head moment, but in the hotel. There's a moment when you have to go down into the basement, and the only way to go down is using this elevator.
Yes.
And it can only carry the weight of one person, which means you have to put in this cabinet all of your items, including your flashlight and your radio and all your weapons and all your health drinks and everything.
Yep.
And then you can go down into the basement. And after the whole game has taught you how to survive using those tools, for me, it was the single most terrifying experience of any game I have ever played.
Yep, that was a pretty horrific moment. I actually, now that we're talking about it, something I really appreciate about this game is literally everything that happens to you, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, you are and you don't have to. You can turn the game off, but to progress forward, they force James to be the one to do these things. You have to give up your weapons. You know, there's no other way around that. You have to jump down into the grave. You have to jump down into the fucking pit in the prison. Are you kidding me? I stood there for like 5 to 10 minutes going, please God, no. I don't want to have to do this. It was so scary for me, but they force you to be the one to do it. I think maybe there might be 1 or 2 instances where something breaks and you fall, but it's never like all the big moments are you have to decide to go down there. It's up to you to do it. And I think that's great for horror.
You just do it yourself.
Yep. It's
DIY.
You have nobody to blame but yourself for what happens to you, which is just like, it's perfect.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So back to Pyramid Head.
Yes.
So you have this penultimate boss fight, which is you go into this room and there is Maria upside down in a bed frame, which is foreshadowing what the final boss looks like, which is a very messed up, very grungy version of Maria upside down with all this black all over her and tentacles and stuff in a bed frame. So in this one, she's just hanging upside down in a bed frame. She's trapped. She's being held by 2 pyramid heads with spears, just like you saw in that illustration in the prison. And then she says, James, save me. And James says, stop torturing us. And then they impale her and then they come down.
Fuck, man.
You have to fight them. And the thing about this fight, it's kind of a similar experience to the first fight where you kind of have to run around and avoid getting hit by them because they're incredibly lethal with their spears. And there's 2 of them, so good luck. Yeah. And after a certain amount of time, once you've done enough damage to them, they go away from you. They go into the center of the room and they impale themselves on their own spears.
See, and that's, not to bring it, okay, I'm just going to say it. So I think there's so much in this that points to the water ending as being perfect. And I know that I'm just going to get this out there. There is no canon ending. No, they have come out and said each one is correct, a different interpretation. But I think there's so much in this game that leads me to the in-water ending. The impaling themselves, the fact that, James says in disgust to Angela, oh, I would never kill myself. And then she's just kind of but we're the same. So yeah, anyway. Continue. Yep. Sorry, I don't mean to derail that, but I just there's so much symbolism. So, okay, go ahead.
It's also important symbolism because they're impaling their heads underneath the pyramids on these spears. And so fatal damage to the head is how I think James suffocated.
He does.
Mary.
He suffocates her with a pillow.
So I feel that just killing via the head is important in that way too. And I can't totally unwrap. Do you have any idea why there's 2 of them?
I don't actually. And I really wish that there wasn't. I wish there was only one, but I know that there's... Okay, let me see if I can look him up real quick. He's been called the Red Pyramid as well as the Boogeyman and the Shadowed One. Okay, we're going to ignore the fact that he's in any other Silent Hill game. He only belongs in Silent Hill 2, in my opinion. I don't like this. Like, there's a line in this wiki that says, it is more likely that Pyramid Head is a type of monster rather than a single entity, given two Pyramid Heads side by side. Yeah. I also disagree. I think that it's just like, if anything, I feel like it's a representation of the like duality of James's experience. Yeah, because it looks like in Silent Hill 2, it's literally James with the fucking cone of shame on. Yeah, they said that headpiece was meant to evoke the sensation of some sort of medieval like torture device. Like a torture device. Yeah, exactly. Which you find when you look at all the torture paintings. Like in the prison, all the ways in which they used to torture. There's like a whole section where you can look at all those paintings. And I agree. They wanted a monster with a hidden face. And so they had, well, of course, because they didn't want it to be obvious that it was James. But they added the geometric pyramid to make it look like a trap. Which is just super fucking cool. I think that Pyramid Head is, at that last scene, when he... fights the two Pyramid Heads, I think James actually says, I don't need you anymore. I don't need you anymore? Is that what he says? I think he says that. Like, I understand what's going on and I don't need you anymore or something. I don't know if I'm making that up. No, I think, well, I'll have to look it up, but I think you're probably right. Holy crap. That scene where he's abusing the two mannequins is crazy in the HD edition. Whoa, like I'm seeing a Jif GIF peanut butter of it. Oh my god. Yeah. Did you say Jif GIF? Yeah, I did. He also assaults another figure, and I totally forgot about that. In another, somebody who's lying down, which is just like crazy. Okay. An invincible Pyramid Head can be found patrolling 2 areas of the labyrinth. No, okay, so there's only one in the labyrinth. I was mistaken. He's just everywhere. Pyramid Heads kill Maria in front of James. Oh, yes, we totally forgot that. Yep, here we go. So Pyramid Head makes his final appearance in the Lakeview Hotel, along with a second Pyramid Head who is there to symbolize James' guilt for Maria's death. So you've got the traditional Pyramid Head who's guilty over Mary's death, and then you've got the second one, which is to symbolize guilt over Maria's death. Interesting. Yep. I forgot that Pyramid Head kills Maria in the end of the Brookhaven Hospital. Yep. And you are absolutely right. He does say, I don't need you anymore. And that's when they impale themselves. Yeah. Which is freaking nuts. So it's very interesting to me that Pyramid Head kills Maria in the hospital, and then before this boss fight, they kill Maria again. So it's like James is being forced to watch himself kill Mary over and over again. God. Which is amazing. Yeah. Awful. Is there anything else about Pyramid Head that you feel is really important? No, because everything else on here is talking about Pyramid Head in other games, which I was garbage. Like, yeah, in my opinion, it looks like it's retconned. They're basically just wanted to use Pyramid Head because he became an iconic image. But there was something really cool, which it says the Valtiel sect of the Order, which reveres the angel Valtiel as being closest to God. They wore red hoods and white robes and acted as like executioners. So you're very close to this theory that I was talking about. Oh, perfect. Let's talk about it because it's super interesting, because that looks a lot like Pyramid Head, right? Like he's got that hood is in that triangle shape. But yeah, let's talk about your theory. I think we should wait and we should talk about it after we talk about Silent Hill 3. Okay. Because Valtiel is Silent Hill 3, and there's a bunch of lore in Silent Hill 3 about the red god and the yellow god. Okay. And it all ties into that. Okay. So, okay. Can we save it? Yeah, we can save it. Awesome. So those of you listening who are like, oh, why are they going to talk about it now? You can either go to the wiki or you can wait for when we talk about Silent Hill 3. Yes. There's one other thing that I really want to talk about. And of course. I feel like we've talked about almost everything I love. Yeah, that's great. There's some dead bodies that you encounter throughout the game in different places. And most of those dead bodies, some of them you can explicitly see, but
they've like hacked it so that they can see all of them, are actually using James's character model. So, which aligns with your feeling about the in-water ending.
That's interesting.
The one that really stands out to me is, and this was recent from my most recent watch through of the game, James discovers a dead body slumped in front of a static TV in the apartments.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I remember that. Sorry to get so excited, but this game is so good.
No, it's good. And then at the end, when he is watching the TV with the videotape of him and Mary and remembering what happened, at the end of that, he slumps in the chair in the exact same pose as the body in the apartments in the beginning, watching the static TV.
That's so cool.
It's literally foreshadowing.
That's so awesome.
This game is so good at foreshadowing.
Now wait a second. Don't you hear a gunshot in that first scene too?
I think you may.
And that's when you find the gun for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, which also alludes to the in the water ending.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's super cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other cool like dead body things?
I know that the one in the beginning, like before you go into the apartments, there's like you find like ammo or something or a key or something on a dead body at the end of a walkway. That is also James's model. I think there's other times where it looks like his model too, but nothing of note. Like the one in the apartments is like the really key one. Unless I'm forgetting, there's always something, and I'm like, wait, don't forget this other part.
I think the only other thing that I wanted to mention is that I think that the creator of Pyramid Head, or Red Pyramid, or whatever that they wanted to call him, said that they wanted to represent like Red Pyramid Head represents like a rapist.
Oh, wow.
And like his knife is, like everything that they did when they did that's what they were thinking of when they were trying to come up with Pyramid Head, which is just like horrifying if you think back, like, did James do that to someone? Like, we all say, yeah, he was sexually frustrated, but yeah, I think it's implied that if that's what they wanted to do when they created this character, what does that mean about James? What does that say about James? So yeah, that's pretty horrifying.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's this game is very heavy.
Yeah, this game is but that's like good horror, is like something that's really thematically heavy and like looks into the darkest parts of the human soul,
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's such a good game.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to talk about one of my favorite parts in the game, which is there was a hole here and it's gone now. So did you want to go ahead and say, because I think you find a message in the motorhome, right, that says I'll be waiting for you at Neely's or something?
Yes.
Right? And then you go to the bar, and then at the bar there is a strange like message written in blood, it looks like, on the window.
Yeah, there's a window that's been covered up with newspapers. And so there's light coming through it. And then written in blood on that is this message.
There was a hole here. It's gone now. Now, the hole is all capitalized. And the rest is lowercase. So I just think that's super interesting. And there's tons of different ways that you can interpret this. But some of the more common ones are that it's referencing James's mild alcoholism, because the hole is either his pain and loneliness, or also just drinking yourself into a hole. And I think he says, like, if you look at the if you look at liquor bottles in the game, I think there's a dialogue bit where he says, I don't need this right now. Not that I don't drink. I drink quite a lot, actually, to get away from how I feel, but it never changes. Anyway, I don't need it right now. There's something more important that I have to do. So I think that's super interesting. Yeah, and I think there's another one, like another reference, which is referencing Mary's vagina. Like, it's like, yeah, there was a hole here, it's gone now. Like, there's just like a whole bunch of different interpretations, but some of the more common ones are, his alcoholism, Mary. Also Mary just like him missing Mary in general, not necessarily just missing her hole, but things like that. And then one of my favorite things is that it's a reference to Silent Hill 4. But I'm not going to say this because Stevie hasn't played Silent Hill 4 yet, but that's probably my favorite interpretation, is that it's connected to Silent Hill 4.
I know about the hole in the bathroom.
Damn it! How do you know all these things?
I watch a lot of videos from people who are into Silent Hill.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting because in this game, there are a ton of holes that James has to confront.
Yes.
He has to stick his hands into holes.
Yeah.
He looks through holes. He jumps into holes.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because if you think about a hole, like that is a open space that can be passed through or seen through. And so it in some ways is a thing that you can do, but when there's no hole, you're like trapped. So I think that is really interesting to think of. Like, it's almost like taking the idea of having a hole in your heart and like turning it on its head. Like if you lose someone you love, then there's a hole in your being, but now it's like there is no hole anymore, which is such a interesting metaphor. And then when you come back to this bar, when you're in the other world, it says something else.
Yeah.
May I?
Yes.
It says, if you really want to see Mary, you should just die. But you might be heading to a different place than Mary, James. Which I've heard speculation that is Laura's voice, but it is unclear. It has strange capitalizations in it.
Yes, it does. It does make it look like it's, actually, hold on, this is going to be really absurd, but I'm just gonna see what letters are capitalized here.
Okay.
Oh dear, is this actually saying something? Bye comes up.
Or are you descrambling them?
I'm trying to descramble it.
So the letters that are currently capitalized, I'll read them out so everyone can hear.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We have IRLAEEMOUDEBYIENAEMARY.
And Mary is all
J.
Yeah. And then J. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see anything that stands out because I forgot that I missed the I when I was going through it. So it looked like it said bye Mary in it. And I panicked. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything in that, but it's super, super interesting.
There's purposeful typos and strange spelling when you're in the hospital. I think.
Wait a minute. Oh my God.
What?
I need you, Mary, be real. It's an anagram.
Really?
Yep.
Does it actually say that?
Yep.
What the heck? We just uncovered an Easter egg.
Oh my God, it's an anagram.
I'm sure no one has ever uncovered this Easter egg in the history of Silent Hill. Read it one more time.
I need you, Mary, be real.
Be real. And I guess if you read this message, it does increase your chances of getting the in water ending.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Holy shit. This game is so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Whew. Okay. Yeah. So I really appreciate there's a hole here. It's gone now because of its direct reference to Silent Hill 4, which is like one of my favorites. And I love the lore idea that Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 4 are either happening simultaneously or they're just like so connected. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. But we won't touch on that anymore because I want you to be able to play that. But yeah,
have the experience. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I can't believe that just happened. Yeah, I think that's all I had for the extra. Like there was a hole here. It's gone now.
We uncovered it live, guys.
Yep, we did. Oh my God. I have chills. I have the sweats right now. Okay. But yeah, that's it. Okay, so I can hit, unless there was anything else that you wanted to add, because wasn't there something else before we talked about the hole that we were like, oh, but we didn't mention that, or was it just this?
I think we were talking about him going into all the holes, or was there something else?
Oh, it was the toilets.
Oh, the toilet.
So this is just totally random, but I think it's in Silent Hill 3, right? Where he's just like, she looks at the screen and is like, why the hell would you put your fucking hand in a toilet? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Which is a direct reference to both Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 1, where you have to put your hand in a toilet and pull something out. A dirty, disgusting toilet. And again, it happens in Silent Hill 3, and she just kind of looks at that the camera breaks the fourth wall and is like, are you kidding me? I'm not doing that. And it's hilarious. But yeah, that's the only other thing that I wanted to mention about cool things about Silent Hill 2.
Heather's got a good head on her shoulders.
Yeah, she does.
Right. Okay. Yep, I think that's everything.
So if you listen to this entire podcast episode, which is probably going to be, we've been talking for 2.5 hours, so... But that includes bathroom breaks. So, if you've listened to this entire 2, maybe even 3-part series and you haven't played the game yet, now you're gonna, right? Now you're gonna go play the game and be like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Oh my God. Oh yeah, this. Go play the game.
Please.
Treat
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Treat yourself and your psyche to this horror show.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before I tell everybody where to find you, or you tell everybody where to find you?
I just want to thank you for having me on your podcast. Oh my God,
are you kidding me? Like, okay, so here's what happened, guys. We met for coffee last week, I think, and I had mentioned, I want to do some scarier games for October, basically, for the series. And I think the first thing you did, you put both hands down on the table and you said, please have me on for Silent Hill 2. And I just went, are you kidding me? I've been waiting to find the perfect guest for Silent Hill 2 that loves it as much as I do, because Captain doesn't like it. So I couldn't force him to play it, which I did. I asked him to play it and he was like, yeah, I tried. And I think he got like 2 hours in and it just didn't grab him, which I would love to sit down and figure out why. Oh, I did have something I wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that playing this game on Twitch for an audience will detract away from the experience?
Do you mean for the person who is playing it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because for sure it's going to detract from the experience of somebody watching it, because it is not the same as when you have the controller in your hand. And sometimes it's or when you're in control. It's not everybody is using a controller with their hands, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
So for me, my experience was amazing with my audience because I was nerding out as I went through. I'm like, look at this. Look at this.
So
like,
that was your first playthrough was streaming it? Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
No, it was my second. If it was your first time playing it, especially, I think if you have people in your chat who are into Silent Hill, who are not going to spoil it for you, it could be amazing. Yeah. But I would be afraid of getting spoilers if you were streaming it. Like, that would be a really real possibility.
Yeah, I think so too. But also, I think the hardcore fans will come in and no one will actually spoil it for you. But
just have your mods really on top of it.
Yeah, but also I actually think it's one of the only games that I would say your first playthrough should be alone with the lights off. Like, I honestly believe that, because I think if I had been playing it for an audience, you immediately already feel less alone. Mm-hmm. And it's less scary as when you're there by yourself in the dark and you don't know what's going to happen, because it's a very surreal game and a very surreal experience. So
my first playthrough was not alone and it was not in the dark. Yeah. And for me, it was okay. Yeah. But if I could go back and have that experience, I would.
Yeah. And I mean, I played with my friends, but we played in the dark, and it was just, I just worry that with the idea of you sitting there looking and then glancing over at a very well lit chat might make you feel safe. I don't know, but I think that's very interesting, because when you mentioned it at the very beginning of the podcast, I was like, I wonder if that would detract from the experience. But yeah,
maybe.
Anyway, yeah. But yeah, I think that's all I had on Silent Hill 2. I freaking love that game.
Me too.
Yeah. So we're going to have to go through Silent Hill 3. I really want you to play The Room, because if you can believe it, Silent Hill 4 and Silent Hill 2 are like tied. Silent Hill 2 probably takes the cake, but Silent Hill 4 comes in a close second for my favorite Silent Hill game. So I really cannot wait. And if you play that on stream, I'm going to be there. You got to tell me. Okay. So speaking of which, would you like to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah. So
all the things, definitely all that. You don't just have to do, please, everything.
Yeah. So if you came in halfway through or something, I'm Stevie Ray Drawn. I am a digital illustrator and storyteller, an occasional Twitch streamer, not as often as I used to be. You can follow me at Stevie Ray Drawn on Twitch. If you would like to keep up with my art and my stories and my own spooky world that I'm creating, you can follow me or pledge to me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Stevie Ray Drawn. Stevie Ray Drawn is spelled funnily, I'm going to spell it for you. It's STEVIERAEDRAWN. I have an upcoming Kickstarter for some tarot-themed spoopy enamel pins.
It's going to be so good, guys. It's going to be so good. Am
can
I
get
allowed
a
to say that? I've seen them. I've seen
absolutely.
them. They look great.
If you guys want to take a peek, I have a mock-up of them on my landing page. It's bit.ly/sigils of true sight. So check that out.
And for those of you listening, maybe while driving, don't worry. Everything will be listed in the description as per usual.
Awesome.
So you can find that in the description of the episode on your favorite podcast player. Which, by the way, we're now on Spotify. Did you guys know that? We're now on Spotify. Oh my God, you can find us by searching for Pumpkinberry TV. And the Deep Dive podcast will come up. Super exciting. But yeah, thank you so much for being on here, Stevie. It was like an enjoyable 2.5 hours, even though I had scary music going. It was great.
Me too.
Oh, one thing I did want to mention is Stevie's got a bomb-ass Twitter, so you can find her at the same username on Twitter as well. And links to all of her stuff can be found there on Twitter.
I'm Stevie Ray Drawn on all social media, so you can find me anywhere using that
Anywhere
username.
you want. Hunt her down, send her pictures of Pyramid Head. Okay, maybe don't do that, but yes, she's great. And also, I would like to mention, if you have anything to add about Silent Hill 2, your playthrough, any kind of cool factoids that we missed that you feel like would be great to share, don't hesitate to drop a line at hello@deepdivecast.com. I will share them with Stevie, and maybe we'll revisit them when we do another episode. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you again, Stevie, for being here. And of course, thank you, divers, for being a part of it. The Deep Dive podcast is brought to you by PBTV, that's me, and you can find us at deepdivecast.com, as well as on Twitter and Instagram at deepdivecast. If you like what you hear, please consider rating and reviewing the show on iTunes, and you can also become a patron of the show by visiting us at deepdivecast.com/support. Patrons receive various perks like monthly black and white wallpapers, high-quality versions of each episode, bonus episode content, and of course, the knowledge that you directly are keeping the Deep Dive afloat. Yes! Shell yeah! Oh no. Is this how this is going to end now? It's going to end every episode with ridiculous puns? I guess so. See you next time, divers.
Your dreams are surprising for a Hakata.
How are you here?
I've been sent after many from your clan for their abuse of spirits and ghouls. I should have known it would be someone like you.
Just because I'm in a clan doesn't mean I'm like them.
You are different. And you have nothing to fear.
And what do you want from me?
As caretaker, you are the only one with access to the crypt I seek.
You invaded my dreams without invitation. Why would I help someone like you?
You are aware of what I do, yes?
Of course I am. But there are no kindred for you to punish there.
Whether there are kindred there in need of punishment or not remains to be seen. I seek this crypt for that information.
a rumor, but didn't think... Yes, I will help you, but I'll require your help in return.
Oh! Did the volume go bump down a little bit? Almost there. Yep. Yep. Okay. I am trying to get some things sorted. I am ready for non-canon. I'm so excited. Let me just switch over here. I was able to edit that while we were listening to the show, which is excellent. Oh my goodness. Minerva, thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. What do we think? So David told me. David was like, "Are you ready for a surprise?" Because that podcast was like 6 years ago. And I kind of just went, wait, what? Wait, what? You can't be serious. Okay, we have about 10 minutes. 6 years, that's crazy to me. Speaking of 6 years, didn't we also just find out that Deathless will be on my Stygian Gate GMing on Table Story Anniversary? I think we did. Oh my god, you're adorable. I have a Snapcam filter that brings my freckles back, but it also like hides my teeth a little bit. But I'm very, very excited. Also, this I'm realizing the light leak is for Deathless. But that's fine. It's cool. I missed last week's episode. Catching up this week. Okay, so Ranistring, thank you so much for 4 months. Here's what we learned while I relearn how to speak without a lisp. Here's what we learned. Whack and Ice characters are dead. I mean, do our characters really believe that? I'm not sure. But our characters are dead, and we woke up in like maybe heaven, not really heaven, kind of like an in-between space. And then we opened a book and went into King Arthur's story and fucked something up. It's not Macy's. Yeah, the Celestial Library. That's right. I think in episode 1, I said something like, "Is this Macy's?" Something along those lines. But I snuck it in as discreetly as I could.
So yeah, I got that teaser done, although the audio isn't quite leveled properly now that I was able to listen to it. The background was a little loud. But yeah. Okay, so it looks like the stream is live. So we're just gonna raid right over. Kirsty! Okay, we're going. Hold on to your butts and seats and towel, Kirsty. We're going over. Sorry, that's terrible. I shouldn't make a joke like that. Okay, we're going goodbye. We're going goodbye.
Your dreams are surprising for a Hakata.
How are you here?
I've been sent after many from your clan for their abuse of spirits and ghouls. I should have known it would be someone like you.
Just because I'm in a clan doesn't mean I'm like them.